Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Eureka City Council meeting, our first meeting of the new year. And we're glad you're all here. Nice to see everybody. Great hat back there in the back. That's awesome. We will open this meeting with the land acknowledgement, as soon as I find it here. The land that Eureka rests on is known in the Wiyot language as Jerujiji. Past actions by local, state, and federal governments removed the Wiyot and other indigenous peoples from the land and threatened to destroy their cultural practices. The city of Eureka acknowledged the Wiyot community, their elders both past and present, as well as future generations. This acknowledgement demonstrates the city's commitment to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. And with that, could we get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Castellano.
Here.
Councilmember Moulton.
Here.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Present.
Councilmember Bauer.
Here.
Councilmember Contreras-Deloche.
Here.
Mayor Burgell.
Here. And would all who care to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. And is there a report out of closed session, City Attorney Black?
Mayor, no final actions were taken in closed session.
Thank you. And this leads us to presentations. I have it here. And tonight I just wanted to take a quick moment to honor a former employee of the city of Eureka who has passed. So this is David McGinty. And David went to work for the city of Eureka in April of 1964, before some of us were born, huh? First working in the zoo, where he became well acquainted with Bill the chimpanzee, then moving to the water treatment plant, eventually moving into City Hall. He became the Director of Community Services and retired from the city of Eureka in 2003. Of the many projects David was involved in over the years, he was most proud of the wastewater treatment plant, the Wharfinger building, and small boat basin, and the waterfront boardwalk. So thank you, David, for your service, and condolences to your family. And with that, we're going to move to presentations. Home for the Holidays Award with Program Coordinator Green.
Okay, there we go. Thanks. Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Madison Green. I am from the Economic Development Department, and tonight I'm going to discuss the 2025 Home for the Holidays Home Decorating Contest. First, we're going to start with the presentation, and then I'm going to invite the winners that may be here in attendance for a few words if they would like to share, and then Mayor Burgell will present the awards. All right, so just as a little recap, we had registration open from November 10th through December 9th. We had 10 homes who registered, 45 honorable mentions. So people, when they were voting, they had the opportunity to fill in a blank of a house that they saw that maybe wasn't registered. So we had 45 of those, which was great. Public voting was December 9th through 31st. Over 300 public votes, which was a 50% increase from the previous year. And then we had over 14,000 views on our Google Maps that we put together. So when you went to the City of Eureka website, the Home for the Holidays page, you were able to follow the map of registered homes. So even if you weren't on the tour for HTA night or people, it was just a resource for them to go out and about on their own to go look at homes. This was the first year we had the Humboldt Transit Authority partnership. We had 2 nights where we offered free shuttles for families. First come, first serve. It left at 6, 7, and 8 p.m. It was a great turnout. We had over 250 community members for both nights. It was really great. We really enjoyed seeing it. So we're excited to explore future opportunities with that in the next future years. So first, we're going to start with the Mayor's Choice Award. This went to 5093 Leonard Drive. You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. This was selected by Mayor Burgell. And then we're going to go to our third place, 1204 N Street, Light Up the Night. Second place is going to be 1750 Nadra Avenue, Christmas for the Kids. And then first place was 3412 G Street, Dancing Animated Display. So at this time, I'd like to say thank you to all of the participants and all of the community members who made this a great event. We were really excited to see all of the homes and all of the positive feedback for the community. And I would like to invite any of the members who are here for Home for the Holidays to come up and share a few words.
You couldn't dress up a little for us?
Say again.
You look great.
It was great. I appreciate the list mainly just because it gets people out and looking. So
My mice. There you go.
hello. So I just enjoy having the list out there just to make sure people are out and enjoying the Christmas lights like we all used to do when we were kids and drive around and look at them. And the bus was really a great thing. They didn't have a radio, so they didn't really get to enjoy my show, but it was still great. And
Okay.
Okay, so this is from you. This is your first place. And then the mayor also has a
Thank you so much. This moves us to our web accessibility presentation with Suzanne Rossmantle, project coordinator.
Hello, Council. My name is Suzanne Rossmantle. I'm the Digital Services Specialist for the City of Eureka, and I'm here to talk to you about web accessibility. All right. There we go. What? There. There we go. What is web accessibility? So, web accessibility is designing and developing website tools, technologies, and anything having to do with perceiving something through a computer screen or a screen of some sort so that people with disabilities can use them. Screen readers or assistive technology can access content so that people who are low vision or blind can listen to what's on a page or on an app. Page navigation that doesn't require a mouse, so people who can't use a mouse, can't use their hands for whatever reason, can still navigate on a page. Captions or transcripts are available for multimedia. And page content follows structure hierarchies. Those are different types of examples of web accessibility. So the principles behind web accessibility, I kind of jumped into this because I got a little flustered about this. I'm going to back up a second and say web accessibility, this covers many kettles of fish. There's lots of little rabbit warrens that we can go down, and I will at the drop of a hat. If you have questions, let me know. I'm happy to speak more about this. And this is having to do with a law that is going to be enacted, for a law that is we will have to comply with in the future. So going back to it, what are those principles behind web accessibility? So the standards for web accessibility, what every website is going to be held to, are organized around 4 central principles: that they are perceivable, information and components can be understood by the users, operable, that people can use the websites. They're understandable, people can get to the information, and it is something that is that can be understood by people who are looking at it. And they're robust. They must be something that can be interpreted widely, reliably by a wide variety of user agents, including assistive technology. And so with those principles, that is all to say that these are central to the accessibility guidelines that are now required by the Department of Justice update to the Americans with Disability Act for web content and mobile apps provided by state and local governments. These are the web content accessibility guidelines. And what are those? So this is a set of standards that's published by the World Wide Web Consortium, or W3C. W3C was developed, or has been in place since 1994. It was founded by the person who invented the World Wide Web. So if we go back to like our hackers, our Doc Martens in 1994, they were thinking about how to make sure that the the World Wide Web, was something that could stay open source, free to access. And so they founded the W3C. The content accessibility guidelines were first published in 1999. And this is something that's been around, it's been around for over 20 years. And the ADA requires version 2.1, which was published in 2018. Version 3.0 is in development. It's not expected out for several years. So the guidelines that we're going to have to meet are not going to be changing anytime soon. That one is not going to be, their timeline's not even going to be published until early this year. And then it's going to go through development. So we've got lots of times. WCAG, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, they are standards used internationally. And with that being used internationally, that's something that's adopted by the European Union, I believe, the International Standards Organization, or the ISO. It's used all over. It's used among many different states. So why should we have website accessibility? Why should anyone do that? Like ramps or curb cuts, web accessibility has wide benefits. It's necessary for some, but it's useful for all. So standards for page structures and layouts developed for assistive technology also allows users with screen readers to be able to understand the page, to hear what's on it. But that makes a page's content searchable by machine readers, and that search engines, AI, those are machine readers. So making it accessible for someone who needs the technology also means that we're going to have a better search engine and better results when it comes to something like where you'll see on Google where there's 0 click. You search and there's all that information right at the top. And how do you make sure that that information is correct? Is you follow these standards to make sure that the machines are reading our information. And the standards allow for a more responsive page design and a better mobile experience, which means you don't need to have a dedicated application to have all the information. You can post it in one place and people with any kind of screen can read that. The new accessibility law. So this is ADA Title II, Subpart H, called Web and Mobile Accessibility. And what that states is that state and local governments are responsible for their web content and mobile apps. So the web content and mobile apps that a public entity provides or makes available directly or through contractual, licensing, or other arrangements are readily accessible to and usable by individuals with disabilities. The ADA incorporates those standards from the WCAG at a certain level of conformity. There's a low, there's a medium, and there's a high. And the ADA has adopted that medium level of accessibility. There are staggered compliance dates, and that's based on population. So entities with a population of 50,000 or more, they need to comply by April of this year, 2026. Entities with a population of less than 50,000, we get a whole nother year, and we get a year after this has been in place for other entities. So we get the benefit of being able to see what has worked, see what the response has been, and really it's kind of like making your older sibling go in front of you so that you can learn from their mistakes. So that's the law. We're responsible, but how does that responsibility break down? So the city of Eureka is responsible for all content we provide or make available. Our main website is on a CMS platform, a content management system platform. And what that means is there's a company sort of like Squarespace or I'm blanking on every single one, but something like that where you pay a company and you just put stuff, you type stuff in, you drop in pictures, and they make a website. That's what the CMS is. And so this is a platform from Civic Plus. Civic Plus is responsible for the structure of the website. And staff is responsible for the content. The way I explain this is if you imagine like a shopping center, the owner of the building is responsible for making sure that building is up to code. Each of the different stores inside are responsible for making sure that their store inside that shopping center also meets code. So we're not responsible for the roof, but we're responsible for making sure we don't put up walls that wheelchairs can't get through. So the city of Eureka is also responsible for all third-party sites. So any app that we use, anything where we say we're going to pay you to publish information for us, it is our responsibility to make sure that they meet guidelines. The cataloging of the different compliance levels from our third-party websites that's already started, and there's a lot of them. So what are our next steps? We have a plan. Our first step is our web content style guide, and that's where we will be incorporating the WCAG standards, the ADA requirements, our branding requirements, and our own best practices to publish a document for not only staff, but also partners, contractors, anyone providing web content for us. We have that there. Here's what you need to do to meet our standards, and our standards meet all the things that we need to meet. And we are, the biggest thing, this is the thing I'm the most excited about, is we are redesigning our main website. This is a happy accident. It lined up perfectly with when this was going to be required by the ADA. Part of our package from Civic Plus is that we get a redesign every 4 years. And so part of that redesign is that we're going to be conducting an internal audit of all of our web pages for not just like the metrics and what are the needs of the different departments, but also what do we need to do with the content to make sure that it's meeting all of those requirements. So our redesign is timed perfectly with this law coming into place. And I'm just going to say we all did great at choosing when we signed that contract. Okay, so that's the overview. It's very, very general. If you have questions, please let me know. If anyone has questions about this, I can go on and into great detail, but I'm resisting that right now. And my email is webadmin@eurekaca.gov, and I'm happy to chat more.
Any questions? Councilmember Castellano and then Moulton.
Sure. Firstly, thank you. I appreciate that we're, have time and it kind of falls into a redesign we were already planning. I know that one of the challenges is that PDFs are not readable, and I keep hoping, for sure it's not there yet, that there will be, kind of technology that develops over the next year. Have you heard of any emergent technologies related to making PDFs more readable?
Yes, and there are a few things on our side. Part of the ADA rule is that any content that is in use at the time of the compliance date, that needs to be accessible. So if there's content that, if there's PDFs that can be a web page, we just get rid of those. If there's content that can be archived, we put those in our archives, and then that takes care of that. So we kind of, that's 2/3 of a lot of the content that we have. If there are documents that are required to be, say, like an Excel file, that's appropriate. If there's documents that are databases, that's not something that needs to necessarily be made accessible because of how the expectation of that is going on. We also have a lot of training planned as part of this. So there's a few different prongs. And as far as the emerging technologies, there are a couple of different AI or companies that use an AI. So AI in this case means an automated program that will review what's on a PDF and apply the formatting for it. It is not a magic machine that just knows everything and does whatever it needs to do. That it is a very clear box. It's not a black box, but there's an overlay where you can pay a subscription and have all of your stuff available that will meet accessibility requirements. And there's a company that says that, oh, we'll put our lawyers on the line, like we'll do this. So there's some different possibilities. Additionally, there are states that have enacted these same rules before us. The state of Colorado has put these guidelines into place. I believe it was at the beginning of 2025. Colorado's a little bit different. They put the liability of accessibility onto the producers of the content itself. So if there's a third party that's making, say, maps, then that third party is responsible for the accessibility. So my internal rule of thumb is, okay, do they sell stuff to Colorado? Sure, we'll take a look at them. Do they not? No, thank you. But we'll see. So.
Councilmember Moulton.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Suzanne, for the excellent presentation. And I appreciate that this is something that we're working on, accessibility to government. I also appreciate your definition of AI in this context. Yes, because it's very, very specific to this. And I think you actually answered my question, which was about the kinds of third-party folks that we are engaging with and whether they tend to be people or they tend to be companies that are either working with governments or working with governments that already have these kinds of requirements. So it sounds like, yes, probably, or that's a preference.
Most of the third parties that we have that I've been able to catalog, and we are still in the midst of cataloging that, I would say 90% are going to be companies that work with other governments. And so they are going to have to meet these requirements before our, big brothers and big sisters out with more than 50,000 residents. So we have that benefit.
Great, thank you.
Great. Anything further? Thank you so much. I appreciate your passion.
Yes,
Oh,
I have my virtual hand up.
Councilmember Fernandez.
Yeah, I was hoping to get some insight. I know we had a website redesign just a few years ago, and I know this is about ADA accessibility, but could you tell me how they're substantively distinct?
Yes. So the redesign that we had 4 years ago is when we moved to the Civic Plus platform. And with our package is every 4 years, you get to do a redesign so that you make sure that your site looks and feels current and up to date, so that we're not, if we get this in 2021, in 2031, we don't have a website that looks like it's 2021. So that way we can kind of stay a little bit current visually, aesthetically. And part of that is we do have that happy accident of we get to do this visual aesthetic redesign. And so we also get to roll in this other redesign that's necessary for accessibility.
Well, thank you to whoever made that possible.
Anything further? Okay. Thank you so much. This brings us to public comment. This is the time for members of the public who wish to be heard on matters that do not appear on the agenda. City Council policies to limit each speaker to 3 minutes. Such time allotment or portion thereof shall not be transferred to other speakers. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. And if you'd like to speak in public comment, you can line up on either side, depending on how many people there are. Before you come up, I do want to announce that time allotment for public comment on non-agenda items is a maximum of 30 minutes. Shall be allotted to receiving public comments at the initial public comment period. If necessary, an additional period shall be allotted to public comments after city manager reports, but only if the first 30-minute public comment period was not sufficient to allow all those who wish to speak to do so. So come on up, Joanne. Welcome.
Thank you. My name's Joanne McGarry, and I'm adjusting this mic so I can be heard. And I would like a New Year's resolution for all the public representatives and staff to remind themselves also in an ADA way. I'm wearing my hearing aids right now, but it's challenging for you even, Mayor. At the beginning, it was hard for me to hear. But if everybody could really attempt to speak to the hard of hearing when you're talking from the podium and elsewhere, so we can really hear what's happening. I sometimes go back and watch the videos so I can actually hear what happened. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, well, I totally applaud actually the fact that HTA was utilized for the holiday show light travel, and the climate action plan has been approved by the county, and you'll be hearing about it. And vehicle miles traveled is going to be something that we are going to need to consider. So future events, from the holiday lights to truckers parades and things like that, we're really going to have to look at different ways to get around to enjoy them. So I wanted to just say that out loud in the first of the year before the next holiday season. And speaking of holidays, many communities around the world are revisiting the use of fireworks. And so I think I spoke up at the Board of Supervisors and at Arcata City Council, and I really do think we need to find better, cleaner, safer ways to appreciate night skies at different times of the year, and avoid things that do great harm to a lot of people and animals and the environment. So my New Year's resolution is to keep speaking up, and I ask you to speak up so I can hear, and thank you for listening. Oh, the final thing is, We Are Up, the Mary Keene project in McKinleyville, uses dyslexic font on her website, and if we're talking ADA, that might be something to look at. It's a special font that can be easily read by people with dyslexia. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne. Come on up, Pat.
Well, yeah, you know me as Pat. I believe you probably also know what I've come to talk about. I sent you emails about the drones, but I have to work and I can't stay. But I do want to talk about Venezuela and what's going on and your response to our resolution. Our resolution was a good one. Your resolution, it included the fact that it would be okay if Congress declared war on Venezuela. That's not what we're talking about. That's immoral, and that means you are immoral because you okayed that resolution. And I'm really disappointed. Since prior to the infamous Monroe Doctrine, the U.S. has invaded and used the people of South America for their own purposes, for corporate purposes, to use them as slaves and serfs. And it's been done by Democrats and Republicans. I bet if Harris was elected and she decided to invade Venezuela, everybody would be happy about it. But Trump is speaking the worst things out loud, and both parties are just like Trump. And I just want to keep reiterating the fact that we need a resolution without this war powers thing involved in it. What we need to do is say we are against war with Venezuela because I'm ashamed of this country. The whole world is looking at this country. All we do is murder and kill people. I'm really ashamed of it, and you should be too. And I'm really disappointed in what you have done in adding a resolution that says, well, war is okay if Congress says it is. So I just want to also say, free Venezuela, free Maduro. All right, it is their land, it is their oil. Free Gaza.
Thanks, Pat. Come on up.
Hello, my name is Rick. I'm with the Humboldt Anti-War Committee. I'm also here to talk about the Venezuela resolution that we had put on the agenda. We were really disappointed to see that the meeting that we had it on the agenda for was canceled, and then it wasn't on this meeting. And I know when we talked about this last, you all had stressed how important it was to do something quickly because we all knew something was going to escalate. And now they've kidnapped the sitting head of state of Venezuela illegally. They have bombed civilians there. It has escalated significantly. This is not normal. It's not normal to bring in U.S. law enforcement to arrest a sitting head of state that was democratically elected. So we really wish that we could have acted quicker on this and sent it already. But, you know, the best time was then. Second best time is now. To send that, and we have updated the resolution to include stronger language and also to point out the recent escalations. The thing that I think Pat just touched on it quite a bit, so I won't go too far into it, but the thing that we really disapproved of with the last one, it's not necessarily saying that it's wrong for Trump to do something without congressional approval. I think we can all agree that he should get congressional approval for things. It's to say that if Congress approved it, it would be okay to kidnap a sovereign head of state and to bomb innocent people and to steal oil from Venezuela. We've seen them do this so many times, and we have to start to learn from it. Trump, every now and then between the lies, he just says something that's blatantly true. And one of the things he said was, that's our oil that they nationalized. That's our oil, and they've stolen it from us. Well, it's on their land. It's their nation. They are a sovereign nation. They have self-determination. But he's just blatantly pointing out the way that it's viewed is that the U.S. had taken control of that oil illegally. They had a revolution. They took back control of their oil, and now we want to take it again because we don't want to pay fair prices for it. And Maduro had said in an interview not that long before this happened that he was willing to work with the U.S. on fair trade for oil. He did not want to give it away for free or give them control of their oil for good reason. And we've seen it happen in Iraq. We've seen it happen in other places. And Congress has approved things that were unjust before, like Vietnam. They've approved things on the basis of lies before. So I think it's really important that we use language pointing out that invading a sovereign nation for oil is wrong, kidnapping a head of state illegally and his wife. Why do you need to take his wife to, the whole thing is horrible. It's all wrong. All of these imperialist acts are wrong. They're on our tax dollars. And I see so many people say, what does this have to do with Eureka? Well, it's our tax dollars, and local governments do have the power to take a stand. They do have the power to say, we're not okay with our people having their tax dollars used for this. And that's what is in our control, and it's what's in your control. So I hope you'll do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up. Good evening.
Hi again. I'm David with the Humboldt Anti-War Committee, and I'm here to speak about Venezuela. Thank you. It is important to let the facts do their work to disprove the propaganda being spread about narco-terrorism in Venezuela. The UN Office of Drugs and Crime has reported that 95% of the drugs in the Andean region are created and trafficked from Colombia. What's particularly ridiculous about the flagrant lie that President Maduro is some sort of drug kingpin is that the United States openly ran Afghanistan as a heroin colony for 20 years. Afghanistan, under United States puppet rule, supplied 90% of the world's heroin, and the U.S.-backed rulers all took their cut. After the Taliban ejected the occupiers, poppy production stopped virtually overnight. As always, imperial propaganda is pure projection. The propagandized United States public enables what amounts to colonial bullying, which is and always will be met with native resistance. Rest in peace and power, Frantz Fanon. We know what this is really about: imperialist domination and punishing a country that dared to follow a sovereign path. This isn't just all about oil. This is about the imposition of a financial system founded on top of a web of debt. Make sure you read Ellen Brown's book, Web of Debt. This is about financializing an economy that was going a different way towards sovereign resource-funded social welfare programs instead of privatization. This presidential administration has bombed 8 countries, invaded 1, is threatening action on Panama, Colombia, Mexico, and Greenland, while continuing to fund Israel, all while increasing our military's budget to historic levels. This doesn't even include raising the largest domestic police force ever to use against his own citizens and federalizing the National Guard. These people have destroyed whatever bit of moral authority the United States had left. The Anti-War Committee is asking this city council to put this resolution back on the agenda and pass it as soon as possible. We aren't expecting this council to end the war, but as a human being, don't you have a stance on what you're seeing? We have problems here in our city, and we need less taxpayer funds spent on violence and more spent reinforcing a dilapidated social safety net, and using your power to stand up for what is right moves the bar. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up. Hello.
Good evening. I am returning, representing the Humboldt Anti-War Committee, to implore you to take action and acknowledge the atrocities that are being done in our name and with our tax dollars. I was going to prepare something and read it, but I felt like just speaking from the heart would be a better alternative. I like that transportation has been brought up tonight, because Maduro actually used to be a bus driver, and I think that's just peak irony. I could never imagine Trump holding any occupation other than being a rich asshole, but Maduro actually got his hands dirty doing something, and for that I respect him. He does not need to be dictated by U.S. imperialism and a power that has bullied the world for basically its entire existence. Also, what are we doing here? We're going to keep having to come back and add to the list of things to add to what we want you to say. All we want you to do is say, this is wrong. We don't need Congress's approval to invade a foreign country, okay? Like, we just don't. It doesn't matter what they think. They do tons of corrupt shit all of the time, and it's just it doesn't mean anything. Having a spine, that goes a long way, and I implore you to use that and have one. Also, what are we talking about drones about? Like, what is
Sorry, that's an outside.
That's okay. This is my time. But
No, but during this time you aren't to talk about drones. We talk about that when it's under the agenda item.
it's related.
Thank
though.
you.
It's related. We're using taxpayer money to surveil a local population. That's the war effort coming home to roost. That is definitely related. No one here actually supports that. And yeah, please, do what you said you were going to do. Come up with wording that doesn't appease authority, and do what's right. And I'm going to sit here for 10 more seconds and use up my time the way that I'd like to. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up. Hello.
Howdy. My name is Bradley, and I'm here on behalf of the Humboldt Anti-War Committee as well. I don't want to beat a dead horse. You've heard what the other people have said, so I just would like to, pose a question to the room. Is bombing Venezuela, innocent people, bombing Caracas, just innocent people in Caracas, and kidnapping the sovereign leader of that nation okay if Congress approves of it? Just to anyone in the room? If not, you should really pass our resolution as quickly as possible. The longer we wait, the worse it gets, the more we have to update. Please put this on the agenda and pass it as soon as possible with no more delays. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Hi. Good evening, Council and Mayor. I'm Andrew DeWitt. I'm a Eureka resident and a special education teacher here, and I'm in support of bringing the resolution on the invasion of Venezuela to the next agenda. I am bummed that it was delayed by the canceled meeting last month. I'm disturbed by the invasion on many different levels. I know that it is deeply unpopular and a deeply undemocratic action. This is why I would appreciate it as an agenda item to allow regular people to comment and learn from one another in a public setting. I'm disturbed that this is the same playbook that we already saw from the Iraq War, with one twist being that we are so out in the open about it being entirely about oil. So out in the open in saying that, yeah, Americans are going to administer the country because that person who won the Nobel Prize, well, it turns out no one who actually lives there really likes her ideas. I'm disturbed by the fact that no one is allowed to even disagree with our country. Insane. As a teacher, middle school teacher, all day long, I tell 11-year-olds that it's okay to disagree with one another, that we don't settle disagreements by hurting people, and that when we want something we don't have, we don't steal it. Crazy. No wonder these kids don't listen to me when I say, they don't listen to me. They just open up TikTok and they see the news and they're like, oh, DeWitt's wrong. You definitely use violence and thievery to get what you want. So please bring it back next meeting and let the public come and talk about it and learn from one another. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up. Hello.
Hello, my name is Madeline. I'm a member of the Humboldt Anti-War Committee as well, and I'm also a Cal Poly Humboldt student. I'm again here to ask the council to add a resolution to the agenda for the next meeting. As has been mentioned, we updated the language to reflect our strong stance against the invasion of Venezuela, whether or not such actions have been approved by Congress, because that's not the core of the issue. The issue is that we've invaded a country and stolen their leader. That's crazy. So I'm asking the council to reflect the opinions of its student population. We don't want another Iraq. We don't want another Vietnam. Congressional approval doesn't change that. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Oh, hello. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hello. As you probably can imagine, I'm here to speak on the behalf of the resolution for Venezuela. I bet, as you're aware, the U.S. has done an essential international crime of kidnapping a sitting president of state, Maduro, which also has talks, as other people have said, of occupying and basically extracting the resources including, guess what, oil. Basically, I'm hoping that you'll bring back the resolution because, frankly, this whole entire thing has just been a stupider version of the Iraq War with rhetoric and everything. And also, Donald Trump has threatened to invade other countries such as Colombia, Cuba, and Iceland, which is, I mean, not Iceland, sorry, Greenland. But yeah, I hope you put the resolution on and hands off Venezuela and long live the Bolivarian Revolution.
Thank you. Come on up over here. Are you coming up? Hello.
Good evening. I missed your last meeting because of a family emergency.
I'm sorry, could you speak up a little? I can't hear you. Thank you.
When you told me you wanted to make sure it wouldn't happen to someone else and asked me to disclose his name, I believed you because I'm neurologically hardwired to take things literally. I reasoned that since he didn't think it was a big deal to covertly film explicit content of me on his work phone, then it couldn't be a big deal for me to speak about your tolerance of it. Which is why I cannot reconcile how your IT analyst sent his boyfriend to your microphone to launder my objections into consent, like dad's weed money into son's rental property. The first time in 2 years, I didn't apologize for protecting myself. They informed me I have a massive ego to expect Derek to remember not to cause me harm. I'm manipulative when I cry, and I'm two-faced when I hold composure. He was careful to let the last misdemeanor statute of limitations eclipse for the videos he sent me before abruptly ghosting for the third time. He was breaking dawn when he told police that he tried to accommodate my request not to depict me in explicit content. When you see your friend as a human being who is not pretending to have boundaries to manipulate you, only then do you understand consent is not a request nor a negotiation, but a human right. I don't know how else to reconcile how he decided this microphone is the venue to go mask off as the victim of my Jewish manipulation, virtuously refusing to lobby the city council for me on behalf of Israel, as I understood your jurisdiction to cover the gadgets you hand your staff, but not foreign policy. I was unaware you had drafted a ceasefire resolution at any point in time. Not in a new moon, and unlike Derek, I do not lack the courage to speak for myself. I dreaded addressing this choice of libel due to how the recipients of anti-Semitism are not trusted with the authority to name it. But that's exactly why Derek was hedging he could silence me, to portray me as just another hysteric Jew crying anti-Semitism. White supremacy depends on this kind of twilight alliance for ordinary people to accept these biases to dehumanize us and justify sexual violence. I'm only here because I cannot reconcile why you trust him as a midnight sun to oversee every camera and system, despite his demonstrated inability to safely handle both cameras and personal data, given how he uploaded videos of my body to Google that I never wanted to exist, weeks before I learned he had created them, because he couldn't maintain awareness that I was a person. Whenever he started filming out of habit, as he informed me, he couldn't delete anything his boyfriend is in. It only makes sense if he already knew using his work phone gives him impunity. I'd rather die than lose the right to privacy of my own body, so I continue to speak. Because, like the men openly blaming Maddie Kowalski and using grok to undress women and minors, the national rollback of bodily autonomy and consent law is fueled by institutions affirming men's understanding of consent as not a human right, but, like your IT analyst, Derek Howard says, a request. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up. Welcome. Here, let me lower that a little bit for you.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
First of all, I want to thank you for being here, allowing this to be able to be open to all of us. Today, I went to a protest in front of the courthouse in response to the invasion of Venezuela, and I met several people who handed out this little flyer. And today, I must tell you that I'm a member of the anti-war movement as of today. And I'm here to support the resolution affirming the sovereignty of Venezuela and denouncing imperialist aggression. Hands off Venezuela. I understand I will be back next month and I think you're going to have a room full of people of all kinds supporting this resolution. Today I read that there was a gentleman, and I don't know his name, but he was representing European needs, and he said, as a member of NATO, if we invade Greenland, Europe will have to protect it. I don't want to be enemy to our allies. So we need to do as much as we can to prevent that ever occurring. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. How are we doing on time for public comment?
We have about 7-8 minutes left.
Okay, and I did want to let the audience know that this resolution has been confirmed to be on the next agenda. So just so you're aware. So we'll see you next month for sure. Thank you. And let's move to Zoom.
Shannon? Shannon, oh, there you go.
Hi, I'm here in support of the resolution that I guess will be on the agenda in the next couple weeks. So thank you for doing that. I think you'll see more and more of us coming to your meetings to talk about national issues, as we don't live in a typical country now. We are surrounded by gangsters and thugs who are raping, pillaging, and destroying the world around us. So thank you for listening to the people around you and bringing this onto your next agenda.
Thank you.
Mark?
Yes, hello. Good evening. My name is Mark Adams. I'm a local educator, former chair of the Humboldt County Green Party, former state official for the Green Party, and a concerned voter. The philosopher Edmund Burke once said, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." So I'm here to talk some sense to our community about Venezuela. Many good folks here are arguing that an attack on Venezuela to steal the oil that belongs to the Venezuelan people is wrong for ethical, moral, and existential reasons. I agree with them wholeheartedly. However, as a geographer and historian, I'm here with a different argument, one that focuses on the reality of the situation the U.S. finds itself in today. According to a broad consensus of well-established, award-winning geopolitical academics and journalists, including Chris Hedges, Richard Wolff, and Jeffrey Sachs, the United States is in serious and profound political and economic decline. Like many empires before it, it has deluded itself that it can expand forever, take what it wants, and now even commit a genocide in plain view of the entire world in the modern era. The results have been the deaths of millions of innocent people, from Iraq to Libya to Syria to Iran and now Palestine, all to sustain a fossil fuel-based economy that is obsolete and largely responsible for environmental destruction on a scale never before seen in human history. Another is the decline of a nation state that once went to the moon, but now can't educate its children or fix its infrastructure, having spent its wealth not to enrich the lives of its people, but to enrich the privileged few by murdering and stealing from the rest of the world. Further, it has become increasingly clear that the United States is no longer a constitutional republic. It has morphed into a sick and twisted dictatorship of capital. According to most polls, the vast majority of Americans don't want to interfere in Venezuela. The fossil fuel corporations, defense contractors, and big banks who own both major parties don't care. If they say invade Iraq to get oil, we do that. If they say invade Venezuela, we do that too. They say jump, and we say how high. And we preach to the rest of the world about democracy? What a joke. Every time we do something like this, we move closer to fascism. I urge the council to vote yes on this resolution to oppose any war in Venezuela or any further intervention in sovereign states like Venezuela. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Phoenix?
Did Phoenix drop off?
No, I see them. Phoenix, you can unmute.
Yeah, hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Welcome.
All right. Hi. I am another voice to stand in support of the resolution to the Humboldt Anti-War Committee has submitted to you guys against the war in Venezuela. I just wanted to speak my voice and let me know that I do support it. A lot of people spoke already, and you've heard good points. I do agree with all of them, and just wanted to be another voice here that was in support of the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Phoenix.
Lisa?
Hi, sorry, I couldn't figure out how to unmute it. Hi, my name's Lisa Hilliard, and I'm not here to talk about the whole war thing. I don't think it has anything to do with Eureka, honestly. I was just hoping to have a moment, which is not going to be this one, to actually have a meeting with the city council in regards to our homeless community and having programs set that allow us to work. And I wasn't actually ready to talk, but yeah, how do I go about doing that is my question.
Lisa, you can give me a call.
Perfect, thank you. I've been trying to, and nobody seems to call back, so I figured I'd pop in and say, hi, how y'all doing?
Thank you for doing that. Yeah, it rings through to my cell phone, so I should receive your call.
Very cool. And the numbers on the website?
Yes.
Yes, very, very cool. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
I see no one else with their hand raised on Zoom.
Okay, is there anyone else in chambers? Okay. Seeing no one, we'll close this public comment. And we will bring it to council reports, starting with Councilmember Fernandez.
Let's see, what was it? Yeah, just last month, briefly attended the employee recognition dinner before having to head off to another meeting. So ironically, I wasn't able to be there for the actual recognition. And then I think earlier in the month, I'm sorry, my timeline's a little fuzzy here after the delay in the meeting, but attended a meeting at the Hoopa Modular Factory with Building Lives by Building Structure. The same folks who'd given us our first hempcrete ADU in Humboldt County. So good conversation with them. And even though they're still building to scale there in their own capacity, it'd be intriguing to see what, if any, relationship we might be able to develop with them in the future. And that's my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Contreras-Deloge?
Yeah, so it's been a little bit, excuse me, for me as well. So of course I got to attend the employee recognition dinner. I set up the meeting that I didn't end up getting to attend with the Hoopas, BLBS, their Building Lives by Building Structure. I got to go to the Cram the Cruiser food drive. My understanding is that EPD was able to deliver about 1,500 pounds, I think I have that right, this year, food for people. And of course, this year it's been particularly needed. I went to the Cape wrapping party. That's for gifts that have been brought together by city employees for children in the community. I got to donate some gifts and got some cute pictures of the kids that got them, and then got to wrap gifts with some of our fellow employees. I went to the Eureka Theater, lots of Christmas-oriented stuff and lots of food drives. So that was most of my time. Went to the Eureka Theater. They did a big get-together, showed Home Alone and Santa, and it was free for children as a kind of fundraiser for that community theater. I also attended the Homeless Remembrance Candlelight Vigil in Old Town as an opportunity to honor the people that have living on the streets that have passed this year. And then I had a phone meeting with Supervisor Arroyo. So there's my meeting.
Thank you. Councilmember Bauer.
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry, my voice is kind of going right now, so do best I can. I attended the League of California Cities Board of Directors meeting early December, and we basically got together to talk about what does 2026 look like? We did come up with our advocacy priorities, and there's 4 of them. First is to protect and enhance local revenues and expand economic development tools, strengthen partnerships with the state to improve public safety, secure investments to prevent and reduce homelessness and increase the supply of affordable housing, and strengthen climate change resilience and disaster preparedness. So those are the 4 pillars that Cal Cities will work on when it comes to legislative, bills and whatnot. I attended the Humboldt Library Gala where we honored Julie Fulkerson. And I don't know if you know Julie's story. She's done amazing things in the community. City Council, Arcata, Board of Supervisors, just a wonderful human being. And it was great to celebrate her. I attended the Humboldt Fire JPA. That was 3 weeks ago now? Got something like that. I attended the employee recognition dinner too, which is always a good time, fun to celebrate our city staff. And I want to say just one thing about the fire in Arcata too. I'm sure we've all our hearts go out to everybody that lost businesses, lost homes, and I want to thank the fire departments. I know the response was pretty huge. Pretty much every fire agency district responded to try and save some businesses there. And lastly, I want to say on Saturday there'll be a walk at Cooper Gulch to look at the improvements that are taking place, kind of what's in the plans for the park there. So please come by. It'll be at 10 o'clock on Saturday. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Moulton.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's see. Since the last meeting, I attended the Open Space Parks and Rec meeting to talk about some stuff. Attended the JPA Humboldt Bay Fire Board meeting, and congratulations to Dolan Dillon for being the latest to become a full-fledged paramedic. There's so much internal growth from within happening at Humboldt Bay Fire. It's really great to see those folks bettering themselves and their professional development to benefit the whole community and just really building up those ranks from the inside. Love to see it. I attended the employee recognition dinner. Of course, what a strong and capable staff we have. And I helped to host a town hall with the building about design standards for infill development, which turned out to be just very productive. Got a lot of really good feedback from that meeting. And then I just wanted to take the opportunity to acknowledge that today is January the 6th, and I've been thinking about what that means. And I wanted to thank everyone who comes to these meetings to speak, everyone who writes their congresspeople, everybody who runs for office, everybody who volunteers for a board or a commission, everyone who helps us representatives make more informed decisions about what constitutes the public good. And I also recommend getting further involved. There's plenty to do, people to feed, weeds to pull, ivy to pull, I suppose is what I'm thinking of. We need your passion. We need your sense of justice and accountability. And we need you, all of you, to put your hours where your heart is if you are able. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Castellano.
Okay. Let's see. I also attended the City of Eureka employee dinner. I went to the Cal Cities League Leaders meeting to set the council the priorities for the state for the year. The Humboldt Transit Authority meeting, the Humboldt Community Services District 2x2 meeting. I did ride the bus to check out all of the holiday lights. It was great fun. I feel very thankful to the Eureka City staff and the Humboldt Transit Authority staff for making that happen. I know it was like extra work, but there were more people on a bus than I've ever seen it on. I think there were 40 of us on the bus that I was on, so it was just great fun. They did such a good job. let's see, today I stopped in at the Community Connections session down at Free Meal that Hannah Ozanian does, and made a dream board for 2026 with folks. And then with Mayor Burgell, we served food on Christmas, and yeah, I just want to. It was really sweet to be there with Mayor Burgell, and I will say I will be there, kind of wearing a slightly different hat or whatever through my job, through my workplace on Monday. I'm the guest chef, and I'll be making lasagna for everyone. So if you want homemade lasagna, come to Free Meal on Monday. It should be fun.
I just appreciate you guys so much, all the great work you're doing. So it has been a while, so a few things have gone on. Let's see. So I met with Old Town business owners around the Skyhorse Project, and the Skyhorse Project, if you don't know, is around where the shanty is. I went to the Builders Exchange Awards dinner, participated in the Salty Santa Parade. Boy, you guys, that's a kick, I'll tell you. Went to the Employee Recognition Dinner and was honored to present the Employee of the Year Award from the mayor to Kate Baldwin, who runs our zoo. Or she doesn't run our zoo, but she practically runs our zoo. She's an incredible asset to the team, and just is an incredible person. I went to the Uplift Christmas, which is working with the Cape kids. I was able to pass out gifts with Santa Claus. Now, I used to go as an elf, but now that I'm old, I go as Mrs. Santa. Older. I attended the Betty Chin dinner, which was an incredible time. And I just want to appreciate EPD for your participation in that. I just love seeing the interactions that happen with all the different groups of people in that. It's a full community event, so it's not just houseless people. It's not just community members. It's like the whole community goes, and that's always a great time. I went to the Bayview Village and did Christmas caroling with the people that live down there. That was super fun. That was a true blessing, to be honest with you. That was probably a highlight of the month. Went to St. Vincent's for Christmas. Went to a Pack Out Green Team cleanup, which was incredibly cold and wet and heavy, and we could really use a lot of support in that. So if you've never been to a Pack Out Green Team or any of our cleanups, I really encourage you to come out. Great group of people, bagels, lots of fun. You can earn a vest. And then I attended the Truckers Parade. And the thing about the Truckers Parade I want to say is it was fun. But I was so moved by the Presbyterian Church on the corner of 14th and I, because they're a group that really put their money where their mouth is, if that's a statement. But they had the doors open for anybody could come in. They had free hot chocolate, free cookies, wreath making. You could use the restroom. It was just this open opportunity for people to congregate and have a good time. And that was really another really wonderful moment. I attended the holiday food drive with Senator McGuire. I went to Councilmember Moulton's town hall, which was very, very educational. I really appreciate that. And I went to a badge pinning ceremony for the Humboldt Bay Fire. And it is that time of year that I'm going to just thank Humboldt Bay Fire again. Back in 2019, many of you may or may not know this, but Humboldt Bay Fire saved my daughter's life December 29th, 2019. And I will forever be grateful to their dedication and their vigilance in the work that they do and appreciation. So thank you, Chief. And I did send a couple of texts, so thank you. And with that, we will move on to consent calendar. All matters listed under this category are considered to be routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. Pursuant to City Council Resolution 2011-22, if a member of the public would like an item on the consent calendar pulled and discussed separately, the request shall be made to a council member prior to the meeting. Unless a specific request is made by a council member, the consent calendar will not be read, and there will be no separate discussion of these items. Nothing's been mentioned to me? Okay. So with that, if we could get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar as written.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second. Please vote.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Aye.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. Moving us to ordinances and resolutions. The 2025 California Building Standards Code with Chief Building Official Riley. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Happy New Year, everybody. So I'm back with the adoption of the building codes. I went over the changes last time. I'll not do that again because it was pretty boring. Which is, did it just go away?
It'll come back out. Yeah, something's going on.
Well, anyway, staff recommends adopting the changes to Chapter 150, sections 150, 15 through, I can't see the rest.
Is it section or chapter?
Should be chap.
Look at this one.
Oh, is it up on the other side? Sorry, chapter 150, sections 150.015 through 150.026 pertaining to the adoption of the California Title 24 Building Standards Codes, including appendices to the CRC and CBC for emergency housing, patio covers, hemp lime construction, and tiny houses. And then I have a suggested motion. If there's no questions.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll open this item up to public comment. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on this item? Seeing no one, we'll bring it back to council for a motion and a second. Councilmember Moulton?
I haven't read one of these in a while. I'll do it. I move the City Council waive full reading, read by title only, and adopt Bill number 1052-CS, an ordinance of the City of Eureka, amending Eureka Municipal Code, Title 15, Chapter 150, Sections 150.015 through 150.026, pertaining to the adoption of codes.
Second. So we have a motion and a second.
Oh, we gotta wait.
Please vote.
Okay.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Aye.
Are you voting?
Four yes votes. Councilmember Contreras-Deloche absent. Motion carries.
Thank you. And you have another item?
Yeah, hopefully this one goes a little smoother. So the last one is the adoption of the fire codes. This was just some housekeeping, like I mentioned at the last meeting, so that we don't have to keep updating this if there are no changes in the actual code numbers. The staff recommendation is to adopt bill number 1053 CS, an ordinance amending the EMC Title 9, Section 92.02 pertaining to the California Fire Code amendments. And then I have a suggested motion, or I don't.
The arrows.
Sorry. Well.
Maybe not. A vote. Yeah. It can be this one, just change that to adopt.
Oh, there it is. Well, I tried.
Okay, do we have any questions? Seeing none, we'll open this item up for public comment. Does anyone from the public care to comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to council for a motion. Councilmember Castellano?
I move to waive full reading, read by title only, and adopt Bill number 1053 CS, an ordinance of the City of Eureka amending Eureka Municipal Code, Title 9, Chapter 90, Section 93.02, pertaining to California Fire Code amendments.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Aye.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. So this brings us to reports and action items. So this is a request to begin research of an unmanned aerial system program with Chief Stevens. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and Happy New Year's. Just before I begin, I didn't get a chance to this last meeting, but I want to thank everyone that took part in some of our events, whether it was Cram the Cruiser or No Shave November, and helped us raise money for all the different events we did in December. It was greatly appreciated, and I appreciate the support from the council for all that interaction. Tonight I'm before you making a request under the Military Equipment Use Ordinance to begin research into the feasibility of the Eureka Police Department to have our own unmanned aerial vehicle, or otherwise known as a drone program. The reason for this is because we currently rely on the capabilities of some of our allied agencies who have been very receptive to assisting us in our times of need. And under the Military Equipment Ordinance, we can utilize outside agencies for exigent circumstances as long as I report back out to council and to the public. And we've had to do that several times, and you can find those reported out on our transparency site on our webpage. However, that's not always the most efficient way to do things. They have their own resources, their own restrictions, their own personnel issues, and a lot of times in some of these circumstances, time is of the essence. So under the military equipment, what I am asking to do is just to begin the research into the actual equipment itself, to begin looking at types of funds that we could do and grants possibility to help pay for it. Research the requirements for licensing under the FAA for the department, also the POST, which is the Police Officer Standards and Training of California, on what they require for pilots and for departments to have it, and to develop a comprehensive policy that aligns with state law, POST guidelines, and best practices across California. A little bit of background: these vehicles become a very valuable public safety tool, both used by law enforcement and other entities throughout California, and include fire, Public Works, anyone that deals with large areas and they need to cover it in a quick amount of time and get a view that you don't get from the ground. They've been very valuable. They enhance officer safety and community safety by providing real-time situational awareness and supporting de-escalation during critical incidents. Under California state law, police officers are required, whenever feasible, to use de-escalation techniques before we use force, and especially in deadly force. And this is just another tool that will help us limit the number of armed confrontations that we have, and that's what we try to do, and we've seen results of those as recent as a couple months ago during a barricaded subject that we have. Additionally, we rely on these to assist in mental health crisis when people are involving self-harm or suicidal tendencies, mental health crisis, potentially armed individuals, searches for missing or at-risk individuals, persons, including children and adults, barricaded suspect situations requiring interior or aerial assessment and assistance, and then public safety incidents near schools or densely populated areas. The uses of these for this type of safety situations really could be, the word just left my brain. It's unlimited. For public safety, it's unlimited. There are so many things that could happen, from natural disasters to large public scale events that we've used them in before, just before the overall safety of our community. The benefits for the EPD are significant. They offer rapid deployment capabilities and increased effectiveness across a wide range of emergency and investigative responses. I would like to just say that, policing is no different than anything else we do in society when it comes to technology. Technology really shapes the way we live, connect, and we stay informed nowadays. It's rapidly transforming how law enforcement protects and serves, making our communities, making our work more efficient, transparent, and safe. For the Eureka Police Department to meet the expectations of our community, we need to be equipped with the tools and technology that allow us to respond effectively, share critical information, and keep both our officers and residents safe. When we fail to invest in technology, we're not just limiting innovation, we're limiting safety. We're taking away opportunities to solve crimes faster, respond to emergencies smarter, and protect those who rely on us the most. Supporting these efforts to harness technology isn't an investment in policing, it's an investment in the safety, trust, and well-being of our entire community. So on that, I would turn it over for any questions that council may have.
Okay, any questions? Councilmember Castellano?
Great, thank you. And thanks for bringing this before us. Let's see, my questions. I think the first is, I'm aware that we've partnered with the Humboldt County Sheriff to use drones before. Can you describe in a little bit more detail some of those incidents in which drones have been used?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll start with the mental health crisis of a young lady who climbed to the top of our water tower to commit suicide. Our crisis negotiation team was able to use the drone not only to get a better visual on where she was and to help her get back down, but also to communicate with her and de-escalate that situation, which resulted in her safely being able to scale back down the water tower and take into appropriate services for assistance. Most recently, we had an individual trying to create self-harm by going out long into the bay, just between Eureka and Arcata along the Redwood Lumber Company area there. To be able to get out to that individual was impossible from the land, so we had to send the Sheriff's Department out there with their jet ski. Fire swimmers from Humboldt Bay Fire went out there on their boards that they have, and the individual was uncooperative. But also this was at nighttime. So they were able to use the light on the drone to light up the area, which made it safer for both the rescue swimmers and first responders out there. We were able to eventually de-escalate that situation and convince the individual to come in with us, and that drone was able to follow the jet ski in with him on the board and able to get him into the dock without any issues, and he got the appropriate care that he needed following that. Recently, we had a barricaded subject that lasted about 14 hours. It was supposed to be armed and had been holding a person hostage. We were able to utilize drones not only to get a better look at the entire property without having to put anybody in danger, but also to eventually fly inside the residence and locate the subject in which room he was in. So this allowed us, when the team made entry, to clear the residence and to take him into custody. We had one specific area that we could concentrate on. They still used the drone to clear the rest of the residence, but when we had contact with the suspect, he was in the room where the drone had located him, and he was taken into custody without incident. Additionally, during that, because it also lasted into the night, the one drone with the large light on to provide essential lighting for the team on security in the rear or the backyard of the residence. Just due to us being unable to get any of our vehicles into the alley because of a 6-foot fence to be able to provide light to them, the drone was able to light up the area so they could safely operate back there without being seen, but able to get in and out. And that's actually how they rescued the person being held hostage. Was he was able to come out the back door and they were able to get to him, and the drone light assisted in that process. I will say just today, for another example, we had a at-risk missing 10-year-old who has autism, who enjoys the water, and 7 out of 10 autistic kids who run away will go toward water and drown. We have prior experience with this particular individual who was found near the water before. So once he became missing today, we were already an hour behind him leaving because of the time the report came in. We contacted the Sheriff's Department because we knew we needed to clear a large portion of the trail system, and utilizing a drone, we were able to fly everything north of the Samoa Bridge all the way out to Brainerd and clear that property without having to send officers out there to do it on foot. We also had assistance from the Sheriff's Department and their jet ski that were clearing the exact shoreline to make sure he wasn't on the shoreline anywhere. And this freed up our other employees to take care of the south part of the trail all the way down to Tooby Road, but then our employees also were spread out throughout the city. And once we got a hit from a community member who's seen him and gave us a clue where he might be walking, we were able to find him in a short order and got him back to his mom safely. So that's just an example today of how that is, we say force multiplier, but that really was today because we could utilize our other resources in other areas of the city to search for this young man, and which turned out to be the right place to be to get him back to his mom safely.
Thank you. I have 2 more questions. You mentioned there have been challenges or difficulties in kind of sort of borrowing or partnering on use of the sheriff's drone. Can you describe, and just, I know some of them may be confidential, but any more detail on those challenges?
Yeah, they've been very not only receptive to our request, but very considerate in their abilities to be able to help us. But their pilots and their equipment oftentimes are spread throughout the county because they're they don't always are not the deputies that are assigned to main station here in Eureka and immediately available or maybe off duty. So the real constraints we have sometimes is just the turnaround from when we make the request till we can get the equipment on scene and start utilizing it for what the purpose of the mission is. So that's where we really have the potential to run into issues, is just that time frame, and time is of, essential at some of these investigations.
Thank you. And my last question, so the sheriff has a very different relationship with the county in terms of, because the sheriff is independently elected, and the way policies are kind of presented to the county versus decided upon by, or informed by the county's board of supervisors. And so I'm curious, right now when we partner on the use of a drone, is there any oversight, or are there any guiding policies that are in place?
Yes, so the Sheriff's Department has a Lexipol policy that's been approved and is in their policy manual, and any requests we make, they have to operate within their policy. And then we also have the standards under which the military equipment ordinance is written, and for reporting standards, both not only within 30 days after it's used, but then an annual report that'll be coming out roughly in March, talking about all the uses of all the military equipment that we have. So there is already a reporting element to that. There's policies for whichever agency we ask to come in and assist us with the use of a drone, or any other equipment for that matter. And so those are already in place. And then, of course, if we had our own program, we'd have our own policy that dictates how EPD officers utilize it, whether it's in the city or we're requested to go do mutual aid somewhere else. We'd always operate under our policy.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bauer?
Councilmember Castellano asked the questions that I was going to ask, so thank you. And you'll be available later on we can bring them back. Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Moulton?
Thank you. And thank you, Chief, for that information. Just wanted to highlight a couple of things just to make sure we got this out and clarified that, I'd love to ask you questions about what kind of drones and what kind of policies and whether or not they record and all these details about specifics. But because of the military, because of the heightened scrutiny list that all drones would be on, you can't even bring us that kind of information. You can't even look that up until we approve you being able to even spend any staff time at all on coming up with an actual proposal with details in it. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then no matter what kind of equipment if you ask for it, whether it's approved or not, if something gets approved, ultimately all of that would fall under this heightened scrutiny list that would require every single use to then be reported out in public. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe the only difference between if we had our own program approved by council versus utilizing an outside entity to do it is the accident circumstance piece, where it's required in 30 days. If we have our own program, we're only required to report that out on an annual basis, but obviously would happily report out each one of those times we use it and what it was for, just as we do now. If that was the request of council, I don't have an issue with that, and we could rewrite the ordinance or just make it a part of our policy that we add that in there.
Sure, that's part of the policy is yet to be written. And then I noticed that the use of the military equipment or these heightened scrutiny items is not only reported out, but it's also included in the Eureka PD transparency portal. So would that continue with any further equipment in the future? All these not just reported out to the council, but also included in the list on the website?
Yes, not only does each individual usage get reported on the website, but our annual reports, both that include our military equipment usage for the year, is also on our website.
Okay, thank you. That's all for now.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Thank you. I know you touched on it a bit more, Chief, but could you go into what what the research entails?
Yeah, so we would start with probably inquiring with allied agencies to see which type of equipment they already are using and their satisfaction with that equipment. We do have, with a small community like we have and limited assets, we do have, some consideration to put into, we buy the same type of equipment. That way, if their pilots are available and I don't have anybody available, but I have the equipment, then we can cross-train and we can utilize the equipment that we have and or pilots. So there could be an advantage to that. But there would be a set of, someone would be assigned to do research into law enforcement vendors that provide drone capabilities and what those drone capabilities are to see what actually is out there and then what our need is. In addition to that, after we get that settled, then we would have a price point that we know we'd have to meet to get the equipment and assets that we need to run a program. So then we look at the funding options for that. And then we would start creating a policy. The policy would be definitely be best practices in California. A base policy would probably come from the company we already use, Lexipol. But I'd lean on our independent police auditor because they already have agencies that they are working with that have policies in place and have been tried and tested and gone through somewhat similar processes to see examples that other agencies are using. Because there's no reason to invent the wheel if we can take a lot of information from someone else and create a solid policy off of it. And then I would bring it back to the IPA and to our Community on Oversight, our Police Practices Board, and do a presentation on where we're at this point, providing the research into the actual equipment, the funding options, the policy, and then the presentation to them. Take any advice them or the community has at that point into the program, modify whatever we need to modify, and then bring it back in front of council for a presentation on what the research had found.
And I know we're using research here as the word, and so it sounds like it's already been established, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that it's been determined, at least internally, that there is a need. And so it's research into not so much do we need the use of our own drones versus not needing them. It sounds like it's been established that there is a need. Is that correct?
Yeah, there is a need.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a need for a drone program, sir, and it has to do with what we've already been experiencing and asking for the allied agency assistance on. And we see that we would benefit, both us and our community would benefit from having the equipment readily available to our agency.
And then while you're in this research phase, do you have a timeline?
No, I don't. I would hate to try to even put a timeline on it because that would rush information that we're trying to obtain, and I would rather have the time to do a proper research, actually go out, see the equipment, see the capabilities, research the technology, policy. I don't want to rush this process because when I bring back something for both review by the COP board and then hopefully to council, I want to make sure it's a tight package of information that I know will be able to answer the questions and concerns that both council and the community has.
Okay. And thank you for that. And I know you touched on the use of the COP board in the process for its feedback and its input. And so how do you see that working potentially then with any public meetings or town halls, or are you just thinking then that this would be solely through the COP board in terms of public feedback?
Sure. I mean, as of now, the COP board is a public meeting. It is for the community, and there would be, obviously a time for public comment and input back to the COP board at that time. I'm not against other types of open venues to have discussions about the equipment or the uses or policy, but that would most likely fall somewhere, probably close to the COP board or right after the COP board, so I can see where we are at that point. And because I don't want to present something to the community that's not complete. And so I would want to have some input already from those that are working through that approval process with us to make sure that we're on the right page before I take it to the community or open it up for discussion on a larger scale, like a town hall meeting for a community, because I would want to have those answers for those questions that are going to be asked for sure.
Okay, no, I appreciate that feedback because I know the COP board meets less frequently than, say, we do as city council. I believe it's quarterly. And so just having that opportunity for folks to have that input, to have that participation and buy-in, I would appreciate more of that. My last question, you would describe the scenarios in which we've had to borrow the equipment from the sheriff's office and the situations which those had to be used in. And so at no point were any of the drones then used in a weaponized manner or fitted with any ordinance. It was all for the purpose of surveillance, correct?
That is correct. They don't even have the capabilities of putting, that's not what they're made for in a law enforcement purpose.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Contreras-Deloche.
Yeah, sorry, my voice is still messed up. First of all, thank you, Chief. I appreciate your time and energy on this. I was thinking today specifically about this situation that happened today with this little boy. Of course, I'm very open about the fact that I've got a little boy that is likewise disabled in the same kind of way and also is an eloper. I spoke to how you guys were able to deploy in that area. I'm curious. I'm assuming that it saved a significant amount of time for you guys to actually try to get out to those places with cars and on foot to look.
Yes. So what we did is we picked a location for a command post. I had a commander there with the Sheriff's Department's drone team and a sergeant, and they directed the search of the areas that we wanted searched on the north end of town. But that allowed our park rangers to take the side-by-sides and other equipment, bicycle they were on, to go south from there. So yeah, it probably saved 45 minutes to an hour per employee just to search that area alone. Which we were used to search other areas, which has put us behind any kind of 8 ball for trying to make sure we're doing as thorough a search we can as quick as we can.
And,
yeah.
And at the same time, that was when the pedestrian vehicle accident happened as well, correct?
Yeah, we did have a vehicle versus pet accident going on at the same time.
With Eureka having the significant number, I was just thinking about this of gullies and waterways and all these things like that. I'm guessing this would also give you guys the ability to access areas that you can't access really on foot or easily.
Yeah, it's very true. We actually, another circumstance we used it for was when someone was seen walking by Eureka High School with a firearm and walked down to the gully where the baseball fields are, went through the woods there into an area. And we set up a perimeter around that, locked down the school, but we were able to fly a drone in over that to know exactly where the camp was that they walked into. We could see the person that matched the description on the camera. And then the entry team, the team was going to make contact, knew exactly how far they had to go before they contacted somebody and where they were standing. So, yes, those searches are just amazing ways to enhance the safety of the officers. And again, it lessens the number of armed conflicts that we have because we know what we're walking into, or we don't walk into them at all, and we use the drone to help de-escalate the situation and help the negotiators resolve a problem.
Yeah, and I know you guys have talked about this before, but I've heard that when you're able to not have to show up with badges and everybody like right then, that sometimes can increase the agitation or concern that people have. So this kind of gives you maybe a workaround for that, where you guys are not having to come in.
Almost anywhere we deploy a drone or any type of circumstance, we're going to have uniformed personnel there. But let's say like the young lady on the water tower that was in need of help that night.
Yeah.
She's talking to a negotiator. She's not talking to, she's talking to a drone or hearing it come out of a drone, but it's a negotiator that's talking to a trained person that's able to, 100 feet up, give information to her and help her get down. And the uniforms are more back just keeping the public back and there for, assistance as we need to. So, yes, and in some circumstances that absolutely, and I can definitely tell you across the country and across California, they're used to resolve circumstances every day that before the cops even get there. So they know exactly what they're walking into.
Yeah, I think because of what happened today, that's kind of been what's weighing on my mind all day. And I was looking up that I was kind of, this is also my fear with my child. My child has a file at EPD, and for the public's information, I forget what the form is called, but there is a form that EPD allows you to fill out about your child, and you could include a picture, and it talks about their disabilities and what kinds of things they might head to. And I have one for my little boy that EPD had informed me I could do that. And I would encourage everybody who knows someone who's disabled in their life to create that. It's so that if, heaven forbid, we ever have to call and he goes missing, that you guys know exactly where to start, looking and what he looks like. But and I just lost my train of thought. I was looking up today that really time is of the essence. When like a child or a senior, our neighbor's husband, we had a lot of senior alerts this last year for him, or silver alerts, I think they call them. And you guys had to keep looking for him and keep bringing him back home. He just kind of kept getting loose. But it was like the longer they're missing, the more dangerous that is, that you guys need to try to find them pretty fast.
Yes, absolutely. And actually Post put out just today a new video on, they call it Wandering. And it has to do with children, people who have autism and or senior citizens suffering from, or anybody suffering from Alzheimer's or any other kind of dementia. And that you have so much time to deploy all the resources you have, and there's nothing off the table to try to find these individuals before something happens. And they talked about the danger of 7 out of 10 kids who have autism will often go to water and unfortunately drown. So, and when we do these, like today, it wasn't just us. It's the fire department gets noticed. Every tow truck truck, every ambulance, everybody gets noticed. Anybody that's driving around that we have what contact number for gets notified, so we can increase the number of eyes on the streets. So it takes an army to actually, go out and do this in a hurry, in a manner that's quick and has the best outcomes. But this definitely helped today with areas that we'd had to do on foot and would have taken an additional amount of time from our personnel.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody that was involved in that, and EPD. That's what I would want. I would want somebody to scramble every resource to try to find my little boy as quickly as possible. And you guys all found him very fast, and I think that's because so many people had eyes out looking for him, and I'm sure that was a huge relief to his family.
It was, and I can't neglect show my appreciation to the community member that called in too. When we put it out on Facebook and utilized our social media, our technology to get information out there, somebody saw him, immediately called us and got us right on top of him in minutes, and it was nice. So
Yeah.
we appreciate that.
Thank you, Chief. Councilmember Bauer?
Yeah, Chief, I think there's about 500 law enforcement agencies in California, and about 18% have advisory boards, correct? Something like that?
Those numbers sound roughly correct, yes.
Pretty low. But we have a community oversight on police practices and an independent police auditor. Can you explain how those are different than a typical advisory board?
Yeah, so the Community on Oversight Police Practices is an actual board with the city of Eureka, so it's a sanctioned board, falls under the Brown Act, and maybe the city clerk can help explain all that because I don't have a full understanding of it. But they're not under my control. They're under the city's control. An advisory board more works for the chief of police or the department and comes in and advises them on situation information that they provide them, versus being an oversight where we present information. For the cop board, I'm not on the board. I'm not even sitting behind the dais here. I'm in the audience, and I have a portion of the report that I report out to each month. But otherwise, I don't have nothing to do with the meeting, much like tonight, other than no reports. And then the independent police auditor is responsible for, under our contract with the city, of reviewing and approving all internal affairs investigations that we have. So they see every investigation, every complaint that comes in. They give the final approval before we close anything out. And they're also there for doing audits of our police department. So they've done an audit of our mental health response, both from our CSET team and from our patrol side of the house. They're currently, this month at their meeting, we'll be presenting on use of force audits they just completed on the department and the way that we document and review our use of force uses on the street by our patrol officers. So they carry a wide range of responsibilities and kind of that oversight, right? They kind of report out on what we're doing as an agency, and they give me a whole list of recommendations. And it's not necessarily we're doing something wrong, but here's an area where we have other experiences you could do something better. Like, we recommend you do this. So that's been valuable. Plus just the relationship I've been able to build with them when it comes to needing assistance with policy, needing assistance with how to address a certain issue or take care of this. They have resources and they're willing to share those resources and talk from their experiences. So it helps me be on the right track with having to do a lot of my own research into things. I can get examples from them from larger agencies that have already gone through the same thing and say, okay, great, this is really good information. How do I make this apply to EPD? And so they've been advisories in that role, which I think has been a great benefit to the department and to myself as the chief.
And do you think the cop board is pretty unique in California? I mean, do we have many other agencies that have that?
I know it's the only one in Humboldt County, but I know larger agencies have more strict oversight boards. It could be a dissent decree by a federal government. Big area, Bay Area, LA, they all have different kinds of oversight boards, have different kinds of powers. But I do think it's unique in that, I have to answer questions and answer to what we do, to a panel of our community members. That's where they come from. They're our community members, chosen by the mayor. So, and I enjoy the interactions with them. It's been productive, and I've been able to answer questions and put our department out front and be honest and transparent with them and our community about what we're doing.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you. Seeing none. Okay, we will open this up to public comment. And just as a reminder, a clarification, this action tonight is about clarifying the research. It's not about purchasing drones tonight. It's about doing the research to eventually make a decision based on whatever they find out. So if you want to line up on either sides of the room. And how about on this side? You want to come on up? Welcome.
Good evening. My name's Kendall Finch, and I live in Eureka. I strongly urge you to vote no on EPD's request to research drones for use in our city. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, SFPD deployed drones 1,371 times within a one-year time span. They were used for reasons EPD suggests, such as pursuit of stolen vehicles and responding to mental health crises. They were also used for reasons that were unclear from police data, including flying over a Pride event for more than 5 hours in June of 2024, a skateboarding event for over 5 hours in July 2024, and for 3-hour-long stretches over a music festival in August 2024. The department reported flying the drones over these events to provide aerial support and situational awareness to responding officers during law enforcement and criminal investigation operations, which sounds pretty similar to what the chief was saying. San Francisco originally purchased just 6 drones and now continues to expand its drone program. As of October 2025, they had a fleet of 63 drones surveilling the city, including public events. And let me reiterate, they flew those drones nearly 1,400 times in just 1 year. That's too much, and it constitutes a huge violation of privacy to the community. I don't know about anybody else here, but I don't want police drones hovering above me when I walk to the Henderson Center Farmers Market on Thursday, or when I go to Friday night market with my spouse, or when I'm a spectator at the Kinetic Grand Championship. To be frank, the thought is super creepy and makes me want to stop attending events. Once a surveillance system like this is introduced, meaningful limits are difficult to enforce, and the program can quickly bloat and run off into mass surveillance of public events like it has in San Francisco. Like the chief stated, the ways they can use drones are really unlimited, which is a statement I found deeply unsettling. Please vote against the drone research proposal to preserve what sense of privacy and community we have. Thank you.
The officer before just gave some very narrow examples of how the drones would be used, but I'd actually like to know how the drones would actually be used day to day and not just in the outliers. Because the answer is pretty obvious to anyone with eyes. The answer is it's going to be used for over-policing. As the previous person who was just up here stated, they were not just used in these very nice just for helping people out kind of ways. And it's an established fact that over-policing just creates more poverty, more mental health. And so I don't buy the idea that these drones are going to be used in that way. And even if that is true, the police should not be handling the mental health crisis. The NIH says that 1 in 5 fatal police shootings, the victims were having a mental health crisis. So, you know, the answer to how to make our community safer is to actually stop the problems at the source. You know, we stop poverty and mental health, not by giving police drones. That's fucking insane. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm Kylie Finch, Eureka resident. I've been here before. You know, Chief Stevens, he cited several real examples of using drone technology to make Eurekans' lives safer, from de-escalating the recent water tower situation, which, like it or not, I got to witness from my bedroom. Ward 3, hi Mario, to helping find the lost little kiddo just earlier today. But what I think that really illustrates is how the current system is working well for these exigent situations, for these emergencies where drones are truly needed. We have them available. EPT has not brought up an example of a recent incident where drone technology could have made a difference, but wasn't available to us. I realize this is a request to do further research, but if we don't even have a hypothetical situation on this table where the status quo could be improved, this request can be disapproved right now. Instead, it seems the reason for this request is not necessity as much as convenience, but convenience invites misuse. Because it was convenient, New York City used drones to spy on people's backyards. Because it was convenient, a small town police chief near where I grew up used Flock to stalk his girlfriend. Because it was convenient, our own EPD officers used private communication methods to conspire against and degrade residents and voters of this city. They are not reasonable technological lockouts that can't be overridden with physical access or just knowing the right guy. The ultimate safeguard against misuse is to instead borrow these devices from the county when we need them in exigent circumstances only, not for routine policing purposes. This system isn't broken, but this proposal suggests a great way to break it. Please, don't break what's working. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up.
Hello again. The company that was mentioned, Lexipol, is either partly owned or owned by a company named GTCR, Golder, Tama, Cressy, Ronner, and they have a minority stake owner named Blackstone, and Blackstone is, eyeing potential energy investments as the political situation shifts in Venezuela. So as I said before, these issues are hand in hand. And regardless of whether you go with the company that he mentioned or another drone company, it will be linked to the military industrial complex. That is where this technology comes from. And in doing so, you are opening up Pandora's box as to what goes on, because he mentioned it's not for, shooting people with drones, but maybe they sell an attachment for that and they can get it later. I urge you to vote no on research. As the person who just spoke said, they already have the technology at their disposal when they need it. It's like they got to use some toys and they really like the toys and now they want their own, but they could go to their friend's house and get them whenever they want. So thank you.
Come on up.
Hi, my name is Blake Batchelor. I'm a resident of Eureka, California. This is just in response to the speech or what was given earlier. We were talking about efficiency, and that would be one of the reasons we'd want to focus on that. I think efficiency is always used as a smokescreen to implement dehumanization. When we think about the concept of the rise of fascism, the term was, I just want the trains to run on time. Every single time I think of efficiency, it's cold. It's not focused on empathy. We're talking about the concept of de-escalation, and that makes me think about the fact that our police department in America is the most militarized police department in the entire world, and I don't really feel like it's made America safer. I don't know if you guys feel like we've gotten safer as a country, but I don't. Then it's the concept of we just need to trust, because they're going to have heightened security. There's no indemnity. Like, what's the scrutiny that's going to happen? The police department doesn't even have malpractice insurance. We pay when they fuck up. What's the scrutiny? Like, I don't understand what that concept even means. And also doing his own research. That constant conversation about 70%, it's from one thing in Australia between 2002, 2003, and then another in 2017 to 2018, 16-year period, 33 people drowned where ASD was known to be a factor, accounting for 0.7% of the total drowning deaths during this time. Children aged 0 to 9% accounted for 70% of the ASD-related drowning deaths. That is nothing like saying that 70% of the time a person with autism gets out, they're going to drown. That is just factually inaccurate. Thank you.
Come on up. Hello.
Hi, I'm back again, just against the research of the drones. I don't know. I mean, the officer talked a lot about de-escalation of the use of the drones. I don't know if any of the council members have ever been surveilled by drones, but in no way do they ever de-escalate a situation. It's actually incredibly scary and induces a lot of paranoia, just innate natural paranoia in you being surveilled in that way. And I don't see how that could aid in mental health crises where oftentimes you're dealing with a lot of paranoia and a lot of your natural systems that feel deregulated. I don't see how drones would ever aid in situations like that as someone who has been on the other end of the drone surveillance. And so I'm asking you guys to vote no on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi. I'm mostly reiterating what other people have said, but one thing that stood out to me when I was looking into it was that the ACLU has come out in opposition to these rapidly expanding police drone programs. They have stated that they do not believe that there is much of a legal framework for regulating these programs, that specifically referencing the Fourth Amendment and privacy issues. And I know that state Supreme Courts in other parts of the country have refused to listen to lawsuits against drone programs based off of privacy concerns, which I think is particularly interesting given what came up with the flock program here recently, and similar concerns about privacy and also surveillance. I think it's very clear that the government, especially from recent FBI memos and in general, the ramping up of ICE activity in this country, I think it's very clear that especially the federal government has a strong interest in surveilling and excessively policing people. And so I think that any concerns related to privacy and surveillance should be really seriously considered with this. And I think another thing that was mentioned along with the ACLU concern was that similar to Flock, there is the potential for anyone to access this information, the footage or whatever the drone is capturing. These are, potentially just private companies. There's nothing to say they can't share that information with other agencies. Which was a major concern when people were talking in here about Flock, was that, is this going to be available to ICE? And I think it's really important in that vein to look at the recent Lost Coast Outpost article in the last couple months, in which they investigated the current Flock program here and found that there were no barriers to access to the Flock information, that the Sheriff's Department was allowing access to other agencies without any clarification for what the request was for. And so I think that pretty much sets the tone for what we should expect from them listening to our concerns about privacy.
Thank you. Come on up.
Hello, I'm back again. First thing I wanted to say is, as a representative of the Anti-War Committee, obviously we are strongly against any kind of contract or deal that would involve equipment provided by the military-industrial complex, no matter what the use is. That is a very slippery slope. The next thing I'd like to say is it 38% of the city budget is already going towards EPD, not including lawsuits. I don't know that we need to put even more money towards a bunch of drones. I believe other people have already mentioned that they have been able to get drones from the sheriffs when needed. And there was an instance that was used about an autistic child that was lost recently. But in that instance, it was actually a community member who found the child, not the drone. So I'm not sure why so much emphasis was put on that specifically when that wasn't the resolution and there was a drone that was able to be accessed. Beyond that, I do want to talk about how surveillance has been widely used for protests. As someone who protests regularly, it's been a real problem where over 270 hours of surveillance footage from police drones was used on the George Floyd protests. And it's been used on communities of color primarily more than anyone else, or impoverished communities. And, you know, a lot of times these things are pitched as something to help with rescue operations or this or that, but it quickly gets out of control and there's a disproportionate impact on those communities. There have been many cases of warrantless flights and surveillance from local police departments with these programs. In Minnesota, there was over 63 warrantless flights in 2023 alone after implementing a brand new drone program. And typically it starts with a very small amount and it starts to escalate rapidly. You would need excessive oversight, and I do not believe that it's the correct route to try to create that oversight because it will get out of hand and it's going to be impossible for you to regulate that once they decide to start using them for other purposes. And many police drones have advanced capabilities, including powerful zoom and thermal cameras with automated tracking features that can spy on people through buildings, and they can use it at will. And when it becomes easier for them to spy on people of color and poor people with drones than it is to actually go and investigate situations, I can guarantee you, because it's happened everywhere, that they will start to do that and it will become a serious issue. And I don't want it to get to that point. I don't think it's even worth going into. If they can already get them for the operations that they need to the way that they are, I think that's good. I don't think that there's any need for them to be able to take this into their own hands because, as I pointed out already, it is a very slippery slope, and then they're infringing on my rights. They're infringing on the rights of other people in this community, and none of us want that. And I really hope that you'll make the right decision. I can definitely sympathize with wanting to aid in rescue operations and help people in need, but this is not the way that we do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up. Hello.
As an adult on the autism spectrum, if I was having a
Could you
crisis-
speak into the
Oh, I'm
mic?
sorry.
It's hard to hear you. Let me put it up there for you. You good?
As an adult on the autism spectrum, if I was having a crisis and I needed mental health support, I don't like the idea of being approached by a drone, but I would prefer it over being approached by an armed officer. Like obviously a different sort of professional who is not an armed officer would be the most ideal, but if that's what we're working with. The other thing is, at this point, you're just approving research to begin for the drones, and then there'll be a lot more questions once the research is done. But I would like to ask you to vote yes to allow research, because given the situation, maybe the drones would provide oversight over your IT department. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up. And that's it.
Hello.
Hello.
Speaking again. Just basically echoing what everyone else says. I feel this would be a use as a tool for over policing. Also, these drones have been used in many military activities, include Libya through Yemen, and the Ukraine and Russia war. And I think that this would be a mistake to continue research on or give any attention. And I don't want to get anything involved that will help with U.S. imperialism. Thank you.
Thank you. Come on up. Hello.
Hi, good evening.
My name is Larry Giventer. I am a member of your Community Oversight of Police Practices Board, one of 7 members appointed by you. And I would like to take this opportunity to extend an invitation to all community members to participate and provide comment on this and other matters relating to police oversight. I personally have extensive experience with respect to California state and local government, and I'm very interested in the kind of progress and improvement that I have seen over the last year or two in the professionalism of our police department. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Joanne McGarry, and I waited to hear what other people said, and I actually heard them. I think, actually, I would like to suggest that the council here not take a position on this tonight and go back and re-listen to what a lot of people said and really think about it, because I've been thinking a lot about my experience with drones, and they haven't at all been many. And one of them was a weird situation next to where I was living, and they were re-roofing, and there was a drone flying over, and somebody said it's the company checking on their workers to make sure they were doing their job. But I was present, and the drone, I'm sure, could see me because I could see it, and it was just a creepy experience. And then I thought, I spoke earlier today about fireworks, and I was able to attend up on campus the Beach Boy concert that was followed by a drone presentation, and it was fascinating to see the coordination of these machines in the sky. But I got to tell you, it was really creepy as they sort of approached before they created their fantastic little image. And it just, somebody talked about paranoia. It was just a really weird thing. And then the third time that I've really thought about drones is when the beginning of the genocide in Gaza, and I was told about how Israel is like the #1 Elbit systems and all that are the huge experts in drone research and drone implementation. And I watched a video that they produced, and it was the most creepy thing of all because it was following people with that thermal ability. And so I really do think we need to rethink. And if you vote tonight, please vote no. But if you choose to step back and look at it and really think about it and then make your decision, and you better have some pretty good reasons to want to vote yes on this. Thank you.
Come on up.
Hi again, I'm David with the Humboldt Anti-War Committee. I really appreciate all the comments that were made by the public regarding this drone issue. I just wanted to point out a few things. So there's a great book by Naomi Klein that some of us may have read called Disaster Capitalism, The Rise of Disaster, the Shock Doctrine. It's about disaster capitalism. There's a new form of capitalism. It's called surveillance capitalism. And we have to understand that companies like Palantir and Accenture have brought this technology to the United States after testing it on the Palestinians. The Imperial Boomerang is now bringing this technology home, and if we move the bar forward on this, we are a thin line from using drones for violence. We don't need the further militarization of police. My question is, how many calls does EPD get for mental health issues compared to issues that could be supported with the use of drones? So we have to consider that, Reagan closed mental health facilities decades ago in a major way in California. So we've had a major mental health crisis in California for decades. This taxpayer money would be better spent on researching mental health response teams like other cities have done, like the Cahoots program just north of us up in Eugene, like they've done in Austin, Texas, Albuquerque, Denver, Phoenix. It's important to consider, too, people with schizophrenia actually have been shown that dream about these drones. So these people, this is not going to help people that need better mental health response. It's going to hurt the local economy because, as somebody else just said, people will be less comfortable going to the Eureka Friday night markets and things that you guys are, putting on in downtown Eureka. And so my last thing is that since this is about research, a great book worth a read is called The Age of Surveillance Capitalism by Shoshana Zuboff. Surveillance capitalism, according to Zuboff, this drone data that they're feeding into, that drones are collecting, is fed into advanced manufacturing processes known as machine intelligence to fabricate prediction products that anticipate human behavior. So while this technology may increase the capability of our police, it serves to move towards hurting our citizens in regards to privacy and eventually violence. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else in chambers who'd like to comment on this item? Seeing no one, we'll bring it over to Zoom. Philip?
Yes, thank you. I very much appreciate the City of Eureka's controls, like these council report outs, the website information dissemination that I heard, and other such sources to oversee the activity as a community member. I respect our COP board, and I believe in our chief and in our council that democracy courses through their veins. I also understand the convenience to officers and the benefit to officer safety and the force multiplier that this tool must seem like. However, I worry about the next council, who will also have duty to hire and fire police chiefs, which resets the department's priorities and values. I would urge council to authorize a new ordinance banning all public and business entities and their contractors or subcontractors from utilizing drones for surveillance in our town. Now, assuming that is not happening soon, I urge council to establish a registry for property owners such as myself who wish to close the sky over their properties to government-operated drones, and to establish in policy and a mechanism that honors such a registry. Thank you very much for your deliberation.
Thank you.
Jasmine?
Hello. I'm a local preschool teacher, and I'm here to speak both on the proposal for drones for our police and as well as to support stronger language in the resolution to oppose Trump's attack on Venezuela that the Anti-War Committee has suggested. I want to say that I work with kids 2, 3, 4, even younger. And if they can learn to ask permission and accept no as an answer, there's no reason that we should shouldn't expect the same from adult leadership. So specifically relating to your desire to include congressional approval in the resolution in Venezuela, violence is not the answer. And then in relation
So Jasmine, I appreciate that comment, but this is about the drone research. So if you would be willing to send that in an email or speak during public comment, appreciate that. Thank you.
Anyway, I mentioned that because I think it's impossible to pretend these two cases are not tied together. This proposal for drones is indicative of the increased militarization of our country and the society that we live in, as well as the mindset perpetuated by American culture that we have a right to surveil other people, to steal land, to steal resources, so long as we are bigger or we have better equipment. If we really do want peace and safety, we need to make systematic changes. This does not include for the support of a police department or the support of our military. It includes resources being put towards communities that need it the most. This is specialized roles for mental health professionals that are adequately funded. So we have actual trained professionals responding to mental health crises. It means increased funding towards education, towards federal assistance programs, and towards support for our houseless neighbors. I'm not inclined to trust the police when they say they will not surveil us and will not spy on us. Instead, I trust the current and historic actions of the policing system, as well as the police in our community who have surveilled people, which proves otherwise. They do not protect and serve. They were born out of slave patrols. The police actively murder marginalized people and silence victims. They should be defunded, not given increased surveillance, and you should reject this proposal.
Phone number ending in 885.
Hey there. Implementing surveillance drones is going to increase paranoid psychosis among our many residents who are struggling with mental illness out in the streets. And to be frank, these drones are very easy to destroy and very expensive to replace. A well-aimed rock or can of soup is going to be destroying these drones when and inevitably somebody is experiencing a paranoid crisis surrounding being surveilled by a drone. And so this is going to cost way more than you could even fathom, because you'll be consistently replacing these flimsy drones over and over and over again. And I think you should really look at that. You should look at not only the cost that you're not thinking of in replacing destroyed drones, but also how much this will weigh on anybody experiencing psychosis who's unhoused. It's quite cruel. And I see the rest of my time.
Thank you. Andrew?
Hi there. Yeah, I was there earlier, but I'm back on Zoom. Yeah, I want to just thank everybody who has done all the research, all the commenters before. I keep thinking about the example from San Francisco where, you know, it was implemented with people thinking like, oh, yeah, this sounds sensible. And then it just like got way out of control. Someone else said Pandora's box. And I'm like, yeah, this is scary. Regardless of, you know, what kind of person is in control of that technology now, it exists for someone else who's, I don't know, insane and uses it for scary purposes. Just thinking of just the drones flying over Pride in San Francisco. Scary. I don't know. Creepy. That was my initial thought coming into it. And then now just thanking everybody who spoke, educating me further on exactly why I think it's creepy. So please, yeah, please vote no on this. Thank you.
Fox?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm pulling up my note. Just give me 1 second. I am here also to oppose the proposal for the drone program research. I'd like to add my voice to those who have already described how city funding and time would be better spent on the root causes of mental health crises, such as poverty and lack of access to healthcare, mental health services, secure housing, and livable wages. I also agree that increased militarization and surveillance supports the violent settler colonial imperial project and directly harms our community. So please vote no. Thank you.
Phone number ending in 841.
Good evening. First I want to thank Eureka Police Department for evolving their mental health services. They have become instrumental as a bridge between those experiencing mental health crises and getting people to services. This is something that's been largely overlooked in tonight's discussion. EPD is a small department, and we can't compare the actions that they might do with something that has happened in other locations. They are different organizations with different mindsets and a different chief. we can't, we always tell people not to put the actions of this person on that person, and yet that is exactly what is happening tonight. And there's nothing that says that there will always be only one exigent circumstance where a drone can be used. It's been convenient, it's been good time-wise that the Sheriff's Department hasn't been searching for people in remote terrain when we've needed it. And I wouldn't want my child to be the one out with a 70% chance of heading toward the water and be told, sorry, we can't find a drone because we're looking for a wandering person someplace else. A drone is just a camera with wings, and there are cameras everywhere. And I don't understand the hysteria behind it's a drone. I really don't. It augments the police. It augments their ability to do their work. They can search more area quicker with less intrusiveness. There's not an armed person tramping through the woods. Because it's also been pointed out that the weapon that these drones would not be weaponized. It's an enhanced safety mechanism. Sharing of the data gotten would be limited by policy. I urge you to please ignore the hysteria that's been brought forward tonight, the suppositions, the oh no's. Allow the police department to put together a policy and a program and bring it to you for approval, because you could be saving lives by allowing this program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Rachel?
I am unmuted. Okay. Hi there, Ward 3 resident, recently homeless. Our local regional enforcement several times in recent history has deployed the ever so lovely tactical paid leave for officers unslick enough to fall outside plausible deniability while blatantly breaking either policy or law. The counselors in your room voted against local enforcement sharing civilian info or civilian surveillance gathered by flock cameras with other agencies and with feds, and they went right along to do so. The misdeeds of a local IT analyst going without consequence were laid out extensively earlier tonight. These are the types of people we want to give surveillance drones to. Are these the people we want to trust with easily ignored policies and faulty oversight? Now, a little bit earlier, Mustache Daddy did a great job explaining a few niche roles drones could play in rescue or pre-contact de-escalation, but trusting EPD to stick to their own presented intentions, let alone their own policies, is a titanic ask of your constituents. Please vote against this protocol.
Hank? Hank, you can unmute.
Is there anyone else?
There's no one else with their hand raised. Oh, there we go.
Goes.
No. Check.
Hi, Hank. We can hear you.
Check.
I think it's a bad connection.
Froze for a moment. I believe that the assertion that drone surveillance is going to be useful in assisting people who are experiencing mental health crises, which often involve paranoia, is insulting to those people with experiences. That is
Hank, you're kind of breaking up.
and need. I'm bringing up.
You're really breaking up.
You can hear me, please.
Now,
Okay.
now I can hear you.
Vote no. I do not trust our law enforcement to not cooperate.
So Hank, it's not going to work out. Do you want to go out and come back? Hank, do you want to go out and come back in?
Yeah, okay.
Try that, okay?
Sure, that's what I'll do.
Thank you. We have one more.
Heinrich?
Hello.
Hello.
You guys hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Okay. So my name's Heinrich Salto. I am a resident of Eureka. I live pretty much right in the center of Eureka, just over by the high school. I think obviously I have a interest in this for several reasons, but I'm only going to speak as a citizen today. I do think that Eureka PD would be advantaged by having drones. Eureka PD has had a staffing crisis for many years. As a former Marine, I think that, one of our mottos in the Marine Corps was to do less with more. And I think drones really would help out with, being able to do less with more. I listened to all the citizens talk before me, about their concerns, especially with over-policing and surveillance. I do understand the concerns. Obviously, that's kind of stuff can be misused. I think the Eureka Police Department has done a lot with the transparency portal, with the holding officers accountable, with the citizen boards and all that. And I think that there's a lot of not roadblocks, but guide rails in place to make sure that this isn't abused. And then all this technology obviously has the ability to audit, so you can always see who's doing what, who's looking at what, and see if somebody's misusing the system. And I think, having that increased transparency will really help alleviate citizens' concerns with the misuse of drones. Chief Stevens mentioned kind of all these incidents that are kind of more, like the tactical use of drones and the search and rescue and all that. And that's great and all, but we also need to be looking towards the future. There are many departments out there that do what's called DFR, which is a drone as first responder, which when a call of a certain category comes in, say like carjacking or robbery or something like that come in, drones get dispatched right as that call comes in, and that provides immediate information, sometimes within seconds. And whereas there can be a delay with officers because somebody calls, they have to talk to a dispatcher. That can take a minute. It can take 2 minutes. It can take 5 minutes, and then that dispatcher has to put that information into a call, and then that call gets sent over to a police dispatcher, and then that person has to talk to an officer on the radio, and that takes more time. So, and then the officer has to drive through town, and if it's 5 p.m. during rush hour, that officer can take anywhere from 3 to 15 minutes to get to a hot call, and by that time, 15 minutes is a long time to be in a critical incident. I don't know if you guys ever do like martial arts or MMA
Thank
or
you.
like that.
Thank you. Your 3 minutes are up.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Hank, you're back. Welcome.
All right. So I concur with the people who have said that this drone program will assist law enforcement in carrying out their work. I believe that the distinction and why I believe you should vote no on this proposal lies in the intent of that work. We know that Eureka law enforcement has an internal culture of harassment and intense misogyny as exposed by the Lost Coast Outpost. We know that police locally in Humboldt County have had a very adversarial relationship with homeless people and people experiencing mental health crises. If you are somebody who is not particularly well off, if you're somebody who's poorer, you probably know the police have an adversarial relationship with you that is pre-existing, and that most people in Humboldt County do not think very positively of the role that the Eureka Police Department plays in keeping them safe. The assertion that this program is going to help people with mental health crises, a lot of which, if somebody is in a position of having a psychotic episode, might involve paranoia, additional surveillance would compound the paranoia. The assertion that would be de-escalatory, I believe, is absurd. And given the political alignment of law enforcement, by and large, with that of the federal government, and the federal government's push towards existing repression of political dissidents and repression of immigrants, deportations, and usage of surveillance networks and data analysis to track people who the federal government deems to be not the kind of citizens that they would like in the country, it can be assumed that this will not be used in the best interests of Humboldt County citizens. We already know that law enforcement agencies locally have been accessing flock data networks. Any existing surveillance operation that law enforcement which has a reputation for being opportunistic, for being callous, and for being repressive, can use those capabilities to the best of their desires to control what kind of citizens are allowed to safely exist in Humboldt County. And to me, that is disgusting, and I would encourage you to vote no. We do not need additional repression of domestic citizens, whether they be immigrants or political dissidents or just anybody going about.
Thank you, Hank. Your 3 minutes are up. Thanks for coming back. All right. Do you see anyone else?
I see no one else on Zoom.
Okay. Seeing no one else, we'll bring this back to council for comments or an emotion. First a motion, and then comments for discussion purposes. Councilmember Bauer?
Sorry. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. To the mayor. I don't believe a motion is required for discussion purposes.
I think that in the order of things after public comment, it's proper to determine whether there is a motion to go forward. And that can precede the discussion part of the process.
I guess my thought is that discussion may help understand possible nuance in the motion.
And I think that's in the discretion of the mayor, but I also think that now is the time for a motion if there's going to be one. I think if this further discussion is needed for somebody to make up their mind on a motion, I think that's in the discretion of the mayor.
So yeah, I would like a motion, and there will be time for discussion. After we have a motion, I'd like to know if people are even interested in having this conversation. Councilmember Bauer?
Just for the sake of discussion, I'll make a motion to authorize begin research of an unmanned aerial system program as per Chapter 104, Military Equipment Use Ordinance, and direct staff to present a full program proposal, including operational policies, training standards, and fiscal impact, excuse me, to the Community Oversight on Police Practices Board and the Independent Police Auditor review and input. And upon completion of research and consideration of oversight feedback, staff would return to the City Council with a formal request to implement a UAS program if the findings support a demonstrated benefit to the City of Eureka residents and the Eureka Police Department.
I'll second.
Great. So we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Castellano, did you have some comments?
Sure. Thank you. Great. Let's see. I have quite a few comments, but I'm happy to take a break and give other folks the opportunity for comments as well. Firstly, I do appreciate the opportunity to discuss this and the public comments as well as the written comment. I do want to start off with kind of speaking a little bit to the difference between the Sheriff's Department and Eureka Police Department. California sheriffs are independently elected constitutional officers, and they're not employees of the county or the executive. And so there's certain structural tensions in how sheriffs create policies, in that they're not, they don't allow for the same kind of oversight as a city police force does. And so, in terms of the citizens who spoke to we may open a Pandora's box. In my mind, the Pandora's box has already been opened, but there is no direct line of oversight or accountability into that Pandora's box. And so, in some ways, in many ways, I support and applaud the work that our chief of police has done, as well as the oversight body and council, in terms of creating more opportunities for public awareness and education and learning around police practices. I do believe that this is a good exercise of democracy, is to have policies that people can actually have input on versus policies that people do not have input on. That being said, I think a policy needs to be diligent and forward-thinking and think about use over time. I do think that the accounts and the ways it has been used have been meaningful and valuable. That being said, for certain, and I appreciate folks who have done research, and I think many of us have also done other, additional research. Again, it's not a competition, but for certain, abuse does exist, overuse does exist. And there's nothing now that would keep that from happening in Humboldt County or in the city of Eureka. The FAA determines kind of drone practices, and so actually cities don't have a lot of control over like the flight of drones, for instance, whether by civilians or other enforcement bodies. The city of Eureka having its own policy and system would allow, I think, greater accountability as well as data collection around this. That being said, I think that there should be strict limits. And I know we'll get more into this, but I think it would be helpful for EPD to kind of hear that now, and for the police oversight body to be aware of that, like going into it from a council perspective, and that's why I bring it up now, because I think it's just important to kind of seed the conversation that way, in terms of like no beyond visual line of sight, and or those limits should be discussed in a public forum, and perhaps multiple public forums. No use over protest marches, festivals, parades, no surveillance uses. Yes to shootings, hostage situations, search and rescue, missing persons, natural disaster, emergency, crime scene photography, lethal accidents. Warrants should be implemented. There should definitely be an audit process. It is proven that drones are used more often in areas like districts with lower income, and so that's something that I think should be closely monitored and reported on. As the representative of a district with majority renters, I think it's important to understand how and when drones are used in like class-related situations. Drones do have a chilling effect on democracy and the experience of freedom, and I think that I value the sanctity of freedom and the, let's be weird and let's, celebrate our curious selves in the world. And, I don't want the use of drones to you know, as citizens spoke out, you know, to limit or hinder that. You know, there are Fourth Amendment complications in terms of unreasonable search. You know, and I think that if implemented, they need things like remote ID, identification of drones, transparency of drone capacity and capability, including the types of uses available, how and when footage is deleted, whether third parties do or don't have access to it can all be determined by policy. And of course, you know, looking at like regular reporting. So those are, so I guess I got through them all, sorry, thank you. Those are generally my thoughts related to this at this time, and I definitely think there will be more thoughts coming forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Moulton, did you have your hand up?
I can comment if you want. Right.
I thought you did.
No, yes, thank you, Mayor. I take to heart everything that was said, and I agree with a lot of things that were said for sure. One thing that really rung true to me is concern about the next council. And I think that is a concern that I have in everything that we do. Are we setting up something that has potential for abuse? Are we not locking it down enough? Are we opening the wrong doors? But at this step is, can EPD even bring us an informed question? And for me right now, I would have to see absolutely no possibility for good to say they can't even come back with information. And not only do I see the possibility for good in my imagination, I see it in front of me. I don't think that, you know, the chief is trying to make the case that this would only be used in mental health crisis, or this would only be used when an autistic kid goes missing or an elderly person goes missing. But what we're seeing is that is when they have been used. And there's so much good that has happened already. I can't say that there's no possibility for good because we've already seen it. So I think that at the very least, allowing EPD to come back with information and a fully articulated request so that this entire process can happen in public is where I am right now.
Oh, let's see. Councilmember Fernandez.
Thank you. And hearing folks tonight, I can understand their adverseness to this request, because it does invite an expansion of surveillance. And we've seen with this current federal administration the ignoring of policies or circumvention of case law where convenient. So at least understanding that in the tone, and just, of course, the history and culture of Humboldt County with surveillance. I do want to point out, though, that someone had pointed to the ACLU, and they're not outright against it themselves. Article going back to just September of 2025, titled "Autonomous Drone Patrols Start to Become a Thing. The technology and regulatory structures are ripening for police drone dystopias." Right there in the midst of it, they say, "We at the ACLU have always allowed that there are some very good use for drones, such as searching for a lost person on a cold night in the wilderness. But we've also been very concerned by other law enforcement uses, such as the monitoring of protests and other gatherings, and drones as first responder programs. But the use of drones for patrol is something that we vehemently oppose." And so that's to say that there are positives, but that they are weighed against the potential for abuse. And I myself have a degree of ambivalence towards this, given the misuse or potential misuse and abuse versus the perks. I think, as Council Member Castellano had pointed out, I welcome the level of independence that we would have from the Sheriff's Office, the independence that we have to craft our own ordinance to look into this. And so I'm a bit confused with some of the comments tonight, because it doesn't sound to the point that everyone is against the use of drones under all circumstances, or that if we are, then we would just go and play with our neighbor's toys, I think, as someone else had put it. And so that level of independence gives us the use and accountability for our police department. And again, going to what Councilmember Moulton had just said in the context of our I'm sorry, I lost that train of thought there. But it doesn't sound like there's any disallowance here for those exigent circumstances. And so there's the potential here that we disallow it for patrols. And we can look to this, I think, in some ways, if and when we get to it, or if we get to it, is bringing this to a ballot initiative through the council. So that's my comments on this.
Thank you. Councilmember Castellano. I mean, not Castellano. I was looking right at you. Contreras-Deloche.
Thank you, Mayor. I think at this point for myself, it seems like there's enough evidence of, I went back through and was reading our press releases and that we get from EPD, and also our I think that's what they're called. I'm trying to remember what they're called. My emails that I get that tell me, here's the incident, here's what happened, here's what, how this was handled. And they talk about drone use. And so I was kind of going back through and, reviewing over that. I think it's clear that it's been that it's been beneficial in numerous circumstances that could have had really detrimental outcomes another direction. And so I think for that reason, I am also concerned. I could echo everything that kind of everybody has mentioned tonight. I have those same concerns. I agree with a council member, I think it was Castellano, that said, this is kind of that democratic process of, let's hear this out, let's take a look at it. Or maybe it was Councilmember Moulton, but let's go ahead and take a look at this, and then let's find out what kind of policy we think, going forward, if it's something that we want to do, what that policy would look like, and what that discussion should be. And I want to clarify something, because I'm the one that opened that. And so I think I caused maybe a point of confusion. They're not deploying drones for people who are having mental health crises. We have an entire group of trained people who work within EPD, but also basically we have our own mental health services arm in the city of Eureka of trained clinicians who go out who are not EPD and not in uniform, that are going out and meeting with people who are having crises. And so I just wanted to clarify that really quick, because I think what I said might have been confusing. But yeah, I think for myself at this point, it seems like, we know, and to Councilmember Fernandez's point, we know we're using these, we're using them from the Sheriff's Department. So I think pursuing that direction, taking a look, is a good idea.
Do you want to talk? Councilmember Bauer?
I don't know what else to say. I mean, I think everybody said some pretty eloquent things, and I appreciate the discussion. And I appreciate everybody taking their time to come and give their heartfelt opinions. I think, there's a lot of mistrust of law enforcement, and it's unfortunate, because I think, our particular group of men and women that patrol our streets are actually great human beings. So I want to say, too, that this council recognized long ago, years ago, that a community oversight on police practices board was warranted. And that's pretty rare for a community to do. So we've taken steps to try and assure that police are there's oversight and that of their practices. We've done a lot, and I appreciate that. And I think I'll echo what Councilmember Castellano said about, I want to see a policy that I don't want to see a drone flying over Friday night market. I don't want to see it's to be used for crisis situations. And I think giving the opportunity to do the research and to talk with the community members that are a part of the COP board will help us maybe achieve something that is reasonable, that we all agree on, that protects our community. So I'm hopeful that we're at least giving them the opportunity to do the research and come back with something that people will be happy with.
Councilmember Castellano?
Thank you. And I just want to bring up that we don't have control over whether a private citizen flies a drone over Friday Night Market. Just so if people see them over Friday Night Market, that is controlled by the FAA, and we it's possible for cities to limit like whether they can take off in a city park, for instance, but it's not possible to limit someone, launching a drone on their own private property and flying it over the public. I just want that to be clear so folks don't think that we're saying one thing and doing another.
Thank you. Councilmember Fernandez.
You're muted.
I noticed that. Thank you. I understand the motion as it's stated is to move forward with allowing for the police department to research. That's not to say that we can't provide some sort of direction, though, as well, if it were to come to, like, we would like you to look more heavy-handedly into concerns regarding privacy, etc. Correct? Or would that have to be baked into the motion?
No, that's all encompassing with doing the research. That will be brought back to the COP board, the IPA, potentially another public meeting, and then back to council.
Okay, because then I would like to note that I would like the research to include San Francisco's Measure E from 2024.
Pardon me. Okay. Any further comments? Seeing none, please vote.
Councilmember Fernandez?
Aye.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Okay, at this time we'll take a short break and we'll see you before 9. Okay, so we are going to reconvene this meeting of the Eureka City Council. And we are moving on to regional housing needs allocations, our RENA methodology with Department Services Director Kenyon.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
The purpose of this presentation is to provide a brief overview of the adopted Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RENA, summarize city staff's concerns and the comment letter we submitted regarding Eureka's allocation, and get council's direction on whether to file a formal appeal during the 30-day appeal period, which ends on January 18th. So just a quick overview to refresh our memories on the RENA process. Every 8 years, the state requires each city and county to update its housing element. We are currently in our 6th cycle, but we're now planning for the 7th cycle, which will run from July 2027 to 2035. And the process starts with the State Department of Housing and Community Development, HCD, determining how much housing each region needs. That regional number is then allocated by the Regional Council of Governments, in our case is HCOG, among the 7 cities and unincorporated county. Each jurisdiction then updates its own housing element to show how it will accommodate its share of that regional need. And both that RENA methodology and each local housing element must be approved by HCD before they become effective. We talked about this recently. HCD released the 7th cycle regional housing need for Humboldt County on July 15th of this year, 2 years before our 7th cycle housing element is due. The state determined that the regional need is 5,962 net new housing units over the 8-year cycle, and the state split those units into 6 income categories. Now it's HCOG's turn to allocate this regional total to the local jurisdictions, and there are 2 steps to this allocation process. How big is each jurisdiction's overall allocation. Think of this as the size of each city's housing pie. And then 2, how is the pie split by income category? In other words, how big each income slice of that pie is. And that second part is the part we took concern with. HCOG has flexibility in how it does this, but the methodology must further these 5 state statutory objectives, including affirmatively furthering fair housing. Originally, HCOG proposed a methodology for the 7th cycle very similar to what was adopted for the 6th cycle housing element. And so under this originally proposed methodology and under the adopted methodology, the first step, allocating the overall total units by jurisdiction, their methodology is based 50% on each jurisdiction's existing share of regional housing and 50% on each jurisdiction's existing share of regional jobs. So because Eureka has 38.8% of regional jobs and 19.5% of regional population, we're getting 29.2% of the regional total housing allocation, which is 1,740 units. As a comparison, an alternative that was discussed but was not adopted would have weighted jobs more heavily at 60% jobs and 40% housing. Under that scenario, Eureka's allocation would have increased by 115 units because of our heavy job, we're job rich. Step 2 is to determine how each jurisdiction's pie is split by income category. Remember that HCD already divided up the overall regional need by income category as shown on this pie chart. So the first thing HCOG does is just carry those percentages over so that each individual jurisdiction's percent allocation by income category matches the overall percentages. So for instance, 9.5% of the overall regional need is assigned to moderate income households. So 9% of Eureka's RENA would be assigned to moderate income households. But then HCOG makes adjustments. And this part of the allocation has changed between what was originally proposed and what was adopted. What was originally proposed is that there was going to be a 20% adjustment to the distribution based on the difference between jurisdictions' current percent of any income category and the regional average for that income category. So for instance, 9.1% of Eureka's current housing stock is occupied by moderate income households. This is lower than the regional allocation of 9.5%. So Eureka would be given a greater allocation of moderate income units to hopefully nudge Eureka's income mix closer to the regional average, supporting fair housing goals of not concentrating wealth or poverty. That was the original proposal. HCD, however, submitted comments on this methodology indicating they were unlikely to approve it, expressing concern that it did not adequately affirmatively further fair housing because it doesn't have any specific factor, weighting, or consideration to advance affirmatively furthering fair housing. They noted that incorporating an additional factor in some fashions, such as, but not limited to, opportunity map data could strengthen the draft allocation methodologies in alignment with affirmatively furthering fair housing, and they stated that such a factor would likely result in reducing allocations to jurisdictions such as Eureka. So just to step back, what is an opportunity score? They're this composite index of lots of different variables that are calculated at the census tract level by the state and include factors like educational attainment, school performance, employment levels, home values, and environmental conditions. Higher opportunity scores are associated with areas that generally have better performing schools, higher resident education levels, higher incomes, and higher property values, among other characteristics that can result in better long-term outcomes. HCOG area weighted these scores to jurisdictional boundaries, and Eureka's overall opportunity score is relatively low compared to the rest of the region. This slide is showing what would happen if opportunity score were incorporated into step 1 of the allocation process. Because our opportunity score is relatively low, if opportunity scores were used to allocate the overall RHNA, Eureka would get less overall RHNA. If we went to 40 jobs in housing and 10% opportunity scores, we'd get 210 less units overall. And even if jobs were weighted more heavily than housing and opportunity score was just weighted at 10%, Eureka's overall allocation would still shrink. And then what if instead opportunity score were factored into step 2? In this case, it should mean that lower opportunity areas like Eureka would receive less below moderate income housing and more moderate and above moderate housing, helping balance access to opportunity over time. But at its December 18th meeting, HCOG adopted a methodology that incorporates opportunity score, but actually results in Eureka being assigned more below moderate income units, not fewer. And that's because it takes away that income parity adjustment that was in the original methodology and instead adjusts percentages for each income category, 30% based on opportunity score and 70% based on workplace vehicle miles traveled. And so the adjustment assigns a greater distribution of below moderate income units to jurisdictions with higher opportunity scores and lower vehicle mile traveled scores. So Eureka has really low vehicle mile travel scores, and because that is weighted at 70%, it becomes the dominant factor for us and results in Eureka being assigned more below moderate income units. So this table compares Eureka's existing income distribution, the regional distribution set by HCD, and Eureka's allocation under the adopted methodology. So for example, currently 33.7% of our households are very low income. The overall regional need assigned by the state is 34.5% very low income. We were allocated 36.7% of our RHNA at very low income. So more than like an equal distribution. Same with low. Currently 18.6% of our households are low income households. The overall RHNA for the region is 17.8% low. We're being assigned 18.9% of our RHNA at low income. And we're being assigned less moderate and above moderate than what would be an equal amount. And so staff took issue with this and submitted a comment letter that was included in, well, it should have been included in your packet, saying that, just because something includes opportunity scores doesn't mean that it necessarily does a better job of affirmatively furthering fair housing, at least when it comes to Eureka, and especially because there's jurisdictions that have much higher opportunity scores that received similar shares of below moderate income RHNA as Eureka. So we're worried that this methodology in practice reinforces existing concentrations of lower income housing. So HCOG formally noticed this adopted methodology on December 19th, starting a 30-day appeal period. If no appeals are filed, HCOG proceeds directly to final adoption of RHNA plan and HCD review. If an appeal is filed, the process pauses for responses, a public hearing, and a written determination. So considerations against a formal appeal, one, it would make the process longer, which affects every jurisdiction's housing element schedule. Two, any units removed from Eureka would necessarily be reassigned to another city or to the unincorporated county, So it may upset other jurisdictions. 3, we're talking about 48 additional below moderate income units, resulting in us getting 17 fewer moderate income units and 31 fewer above moderate income units, where our overall distribution is 1,740 units. So relative to our overall obligation, we're not talking about that many units. The city has already submitted a comment letter to HCD outlining our concerns, and HCD retains the authority, even if we don't appeal, to revise the methodology, and has already signaled to HCOG that they are also concerned about Eureka's allocation. At the same time, there are legitimate reasons council may wish to elevate this issue. There's the principle of it. It's about, equitable distribution of affordable housing, and that also methodologies tend to carry forward. So even though at the next RENA cycle we could pick something different, often, once a methodology is adopted, it becomes the default. So staff is seeking council direction on whether to rely on the comment letter already submitted or whether council believes the broader policy implications warrant a formal appeal.
Questions? Councilmember Castellano?
Someone else want to go? So, okay, I'll go. Thank you for this. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss it, and I think the more we keep this in the public conversation, the better, because it's relatively complicated. And I do agree with your kind of comparison of, there's 1,740 units. Like, we're really talking 48 more in the acutely low to low versus, not it's not a huge difference in terms of the scale in which we're already having to or needing to adjust towards. I am curious, what a delay in timing would look like.
Yeah, so it's another 45-day period. So talking to HCOG's director, they're anticipating right now having the final plan adopted by March. This could kick it to May. That doesn't preclude people from starting to work on their housing element. There's a lot of stuff that you can do without knowing your precise number, but it could delay it anywhere from 1 to 3 months.
And then with that, in terms of our overall timing, further, and I know we can start working on it, but I guess I'm just thinking, as someone who's going to be termed out this year from council, I would like to be able to kind of weigh in on the entirety of this process. And so I'm curious from that vantage point.
Currently, I'm hoping to have, an outline, a scope of work for the housing element ready to go by April to maybe put out a request for proposals for a consultant. And I would stay on that schedule regardless, just because housing elements take a year to a year and a half to adopt, because you want to have a bunch of public outreach, and there's so much to it, and they have to be adopted and certified by July of 2027.
And thank you. And then, okay. In terms of the precedent setting, I think that there, as a pro-housing person and a member of a council in a pro-housing city, I do believe in advancing work towards building housing and supporting the work of housing getting built. And, I do think that this RENA cycle has some just concerning precedents in general in terms of how numbers are being allocated, because, I think you've kind of gone into it already. But, so do you think that, to me, this is one small precedent in a field of other precedents that kind of need to be addressed. And so I'm just wondering, if this is a great way of addressing that precedent, or there might be other ways that are more impactful. And I know that you and I are talking about, just so other council members know, as the chair of the Cal Cities Housing Community Economic Development Policy Committee, I was talking with the staff member for that committee today about bringing this forward to the Cal Cities Policy Committee, so that, because a lot of cities don't yet know about cycle aid and what it's entailing, just so there's more robust discourse at the state level on it. So anyway, so I guess just saying that there may be other venues in terms of like addressing some of these precedents, but so I guess I'm just curious, like, if this letter, because to me, I guess I question the potential delay in timing.
No, that's a valid concern. And I agree that it would be better to get more comprehensive RENA reform. And this kind of gets at this bigger issue in RENA, that it's conflating two things. You know, there's the overall where we're directing growth. And of course, you want to direct growth to Eureka and other infill areas. But then the second part of it is, how do you allocate capital A, affordable housing, deed restricted subsidized housing? And truly every community should accept some deed restricted affordable housing. We should have income diversity in every community. And those, to me, shouldn't be treated under one allocate. Like, these should be separate things.
Yeah. And I do think that, sorry, I'll stop. That just like, all of the research around healthy communities is saying that we want a robust mix of income levels in neighborhoods. And so I definitely agree that, it's valuable to raise those concerns in terms of how this, and I know that some folks wanted to push this forward because the city of Eureka is sort of the most likely to actually enact these housing things and forward them, but also that's kind of furthering some of the systemic challenges that are also at play. So those are my, that's not a question. I'll stop for now.
Thank you. Councilmember Contreras-Deloche.
Yeah, so I echo everything that you just said, but less eloquently than how you just said it. Yeah, I mean, so I have a question, but yeah, I speaking to what you just said too, I'm kind of wondering about that. I'm like, it seems like there's a presumption. Well, okay. So my question about the vehicle miles traveled, was that how it phrased it? Okay. So my question about the vehicle miles traveled, what is the zoom out? Like, what's the purpose of that? Is that the idea being, why are they figuring that in? Is there a baseline assumption that this is like, because they're traveling further, they would want to live closer? Is that
correct? I mean, proximity to transit is included in that composite opportunity score, because if having, living in a place where you can access your job without a car is helpful if you're living in poverty. So it's like, it's part of having access to opportunity. I mean, if you're going to concentrate poverty anywhere, you would want to do it in an urban area with transit, but I would rather us not concentrate poverty, period,
Yeah, I mean, that's my issue, is that it feels weird. It feels weird, and that, I mean, this is what has been happening across the country for a long, long time, and there were different terms for it, and now we're using this under other auspices, but it's basically the same thing. We're going to concentrate, we're going to, kind of almost shove people into one spot. And I mean, I just think that when you're poor, you still have a right to live in Rio Del or Fortuna or Trinidad, or, you have a right to be in other places. And, there's obviously, we're the bigger cities, so, there's going to be a lot of jobs here. But I don't think people should assume that means that people want to live in Eureka, nor does it mean that they should have to. There's a lot of people that moved, born and raised here. There's a lot of people who moved out into McKinleyville and some of these areas because they wanted a little bit of a different, more rural setting. Anyway, I don't like the idea of that. I'm wondering about that. And I just wondered if it was ease. If it was ease, like, hey, like the assumption was, that this would alleviate the burden of poverty by putting them closer to employment, or if this was more like, that's why I was asking what the assumption is around that.
I think people wanted to see vehicle miles traveled incorporated into RENA allocation because they want to direct growth towards infill areas. But in that case, I feel like it's more of a variable for step one, not for distributing by income category, you know? So I think people are conflating these two steps. Like they're conflating directing growth to infill areas with how we distribute the below moderate income RENA.
Then does that mean that we're just considering Eureka the infill area so that Rio Del or Arcata doesn't have its own infill area, but we are the infill area?
Right. People aren't thinking about how every community has low wage jobs and people need to live.
I didn't realize that because this process I kind of was like, I thought the idea was infill development within every community, and not, which is so ironic because they're not allowing us to coordinate with the county to kind of meet our housing needs because no, you each have to be considered separately. But then now we're going to be like, no, as a whole, Eureka needs to be the infill location.
What's come up at HCOG meetings that is really rings true is that we should all be focused less on this part and more on the counties, the unincorporated counties' ultimate housing element and where they direct growth. Because where we're going to have issues with sprawl is if the county wants to accommodate housing in far off unincorporated areas versus in McKinleyville and other areas that have jobs and services. So I think the concern about allocating RENA and its effect on sprawl, I think that's more of a concern in how the county plans for their share of RENA.
Thank you.
Okay, and before we move forward, we do need to extend the meeting. So it's on you.
Mayor, I will move to extend the meeting until 10 p.m. We don't have, well.
No, we've removed strategic visioning.
That's up to you, Mayor.
Can we start with 10 and go from there?
Second.
Thanks for that.
Motion to
please
second,
vote.
please vote.
I got distracted.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. Councilmember Bauer? I know.
No, I appreciate that, what you brought up about, especially the vehicle miles traveled. I mean, everybody should recognize there's service sector jobs in Trinidad, in Rio Del, and the expectation that...
Excuse me. Councilmember Bauer, excuse me. Sorry to interrupt you, but I do believe we will remove strategic visioning from the agenda. Apologize. So thank you so much for staying for the meeting, Karen. I'm sure it was so great for you. We appreciate you. And we'll have you back. Happy New Year. Councilmember Bauer, back to you.
No, we need to recognize in the allocations that people in the service sector should be able to walk to their job if they work in Trinidad. You know, like, I don't know how we get to this point where Eureka is where we put all the housing. And secondly, I don't understand where we're going to put 1,740 units in town. We're pretty well built out. That's not a consideration?
No, it's not.
Yeah. I wanted you. Yeah.
Good answer.
That was,
Yeah, I think we have to understand that there are a lot of people buying houses in McKinleyville and Fortuna, and think about how we make those areas more walkable and bikeable and transit friendly too. We can't just ignore the fact that people have desire to live elsewhere too. And
Thank you.
Councilmember Moulton.
Thank you. Thank you for this and all of your brain work. You amaze me. Help me understand something about the vehicle miles traveled, just so I understand what we're talking about. We have a very low score, and that means that people tend to live very close to where they're working here. So somewhere like Trinidad, people have a very high score. Trinidad has a relatively high score because people who work there don't live there.
It's looking at the people, it's just looking at the people who live there now. How far the people live there now drive to work.
I'm glad you mentioned
So
Trinidad because
it's not-
when I picture a bedroom city, I picture Trinidad. But then of course there's this massive employer there, and where do those people
And that's
live?
not accounted for in this VMT score. It's just looking at the households in Trinidad, how far they drive to work. It's not looking at workers who drive to Trinidad for work.
Okay, so
in Trinidad, obviously, because you're going to have people that are more affluent and not necessarily working
right, they're
those
not
low-wage
necessarily.
jobs.
They might be working
right
at a
next to-
casino. They might not.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you. Yeah.
Councilmember Bauer?
So do we need a motion to file a formal appeal?
And this is just for direction.
Yeah,
discussion.
just provide direction on whether or not you guys want to use it as a comment or a formal appeal.
I'm in favor of a formal appeal.
Formal appeal?
I have a question related to that.
Councilmember Castellano?
Sorry. Thank you. I guess I would be curious, you're pretty elbow deep in this. You brought it before us. I'm just curious your opinion on the value of the delay versus the formal appeal.
I'm so on the fence about it. That's why we brought it to you.
That's what I was thinking. It is okay. I think that's helpful. Yeah. Okay.
Mayor, we need to do public comment.
Yeah.
Is there anyone from the public who'd like to comment on this item? Seeing no one, we'll bring it back to council. Anything further?
Formal appeal.
I'm in favor of a formal appeal. Me and my no vote.
I am with qualifications in terms of, as you said, continuing to move forward on going ahead and starting the RENA process. I don't want to delay the process on our end. And so as long as it doesn't delay us, I think, maybe it will be some part of having a conversation. But I do think in terms of filing the formal appeal that it should also be framed in terms of, that there are, and I think you're doing a great job at this already, of, that there are kind of larger policy considerations. And I definitely agree with other council members' thoughts on, we're all speaking to Trinidad, which sure, let's keep up with that as a real life metaphor. But right, like they're looking at, 5, 10, 5, 7 additional very, very acutely low to low. And for sure, there are many more low wage jobs in Trinidad than that. And so this may actually create opportunities for people who are working in Trinidad to live in Trinidad, which would be really cool. And so in that way, I do support that, that if communities have low wage jobs, they should have housing for folks who are working those jobs. Yeah.
Councilmember Contreras-Deloach?
Yeah, I need to reiterate. I am also in favor of doing a formal appeal because I think about this. We look back at planning over during the course of America. I follow these old pages that show how, just bad planning at different times completely reshaped and changed the way that cities functioned or ceased to function, and how it created pockets of crime or, just kind of basically pockets of despair. And you have that all across the country. And so I think it is valid for us to be having these sort of kind of more philosophical context conversations about how do we want this to look over the next 30, 40, 50 years. And, as someone who grew up incredibly poor, I think, this idea of kind of clustering people into areas, it's we know that the healthiest communities are mixed communities, that really has this elevating effect on everybody where people can have these learned and lived experiences. And so I think it really is worth it. Even if we lose these fights, I think it's worth it for us to put that forward and, raise that and say, I just think my family was redlined out of areas, right? And they weren't allowed to live in these kind of like nicer areas. They made sure of that. And of course that was based off of, race and ethnicity in my family, but that could have just as easily have been based on income. And it just creates that same kind of thing. Like it's kind of a weird little, it just can lead to that same kind of weird little segregation thing. And I just am not in favor of that. We know that a lot of income equality still breaks down along racial lines. And so we have to think about what we're doing. And I think this is a worthwhile thing for us to pursue for a variety of reasons.
Okay. Anything further? Do you have what you need? Great.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that moves us to our last item. We will be electing our Mayor Pro Tem for 2026. Does anybody want to nominate anybody? Councilmember Moulton?
I think we should let Leslie finish out.
Second.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I can't vote.
Do
Thank you.
I
All
accept.
right.
Yay. Oh, I accept.
Do you have a few words for us? Do you want to say a few words?
Council,
All right.
can we vote on that?
Oh, yeah. Vote.
Thank you.
Oh, look at my name's up there.
4 yes votes, motion carries.
When did that get on there? Future agenda items. Anything? Councilmember Contreras-Deloche? Oh, look at that. Just when you thought we were done. Councilmember Contreras-Deloche.
I just want to check really quick. Back in, I think, November-ish, I brought up the emergency streets protocol, and I got a thumbs up, unanimous thumbs up. And in light of yet another pedestrian-involved collision, I wanted to know kind of an update on when you guys think that could be coming back.
Yeah, well, we've been talking with City Engineer Willis. Willis. That's really bad. It's getting
I knew what
late.
you meant.
Willer. He is working on that. We're doing research on it, and we hopefully within the next couple of months we'll have.
Did I send you guys that website, or did you know that for Denver?
Yeah, we have it.
You have it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Councilmember Moulton.
I am interested in exploring a city policy around, well, there's two things, and I think we can wrap them into one, which is data retention and the use of AI, specifically large language models. We had this whole conversation about the flock cameras and ultimately, ended up not using them. One of the main concerns for me was collecting data on citizens that we then no longer had control over. And I see that potential in other parts of the way that the city operates. We're using third parties, we're using data storage offsite. So I'd like to see, I'd like to work towards developing a policy about how the city collects any data at all about people and what we do or don't do with it to direct the sorts of things we can do in the future.
So on my list here is the AI policy. I mean, we'll determine with staff if those two should go together, but
Sure, that could be two separate things. But my concern about using AI is that it usually necessitates us opening up masses of records to that AI, which then uses that data in other ways that we no longer have control over. So how do we collect data? What do we collect? What do we do with it? What are we allowed to have done with it? What has to be, have higher scrutiny or security?
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Castellano.
Thank you. Let's see. This is somewhat pertinent to the RENA number measure, the RENA discussion, but I think that I have some concerns around, in terms of being a pro-housing city, looking at, yes, let's build new housing. except, the most efficient way of addressing housing is to, if there's housing available that isn't being used to, for folks to be in that housing. And I know we did a lot of work around vacancy ordinance, and there's issues as to why it hasn't been, some concerns as to why it hasn't been implemented. But I would like to move forward with a vacancy registration for both commercial and residential that would allow us to start to get a sense of the numbers of vacant units and the sort of reasons for the vacancy in the city.
That's a full round thumbs up.
And then just one more. I think it would be really fun if City Council did a kitchen takeover or a barbecue down at Free Meal sometime over the, maybe when the weather's a little nicer. Just put it out there.
And just so we know, we're coming up on finalizing the remodel of the municipal auditorium, so that could potentially be a venue because there'll be a commercial kitchen there, and so
okay, yeah,
that could be a possibility,
sort of
similar to what we do with Betty's dinner.
Food council event, feed the people kind of experience.
Anything further? We all have to wear costumes. To be determined. All right. Again, thank you everybody for sticking around. This meeting's adjourned.